Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Great Canadian Relay. How you doing? We're having one exciting day. I got to tell you. Oh, look, Canada flag, Canada flag. Thank you, graphics there, Padge. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we're having quite the exciting day. So if you're on Twitter, I seem to be starting all these shows with telling you to go to Twitter, but that's where all the news is, and that's where we're publishing stuff and pushing stuff out. So definitely go check that out. The current rumor that we're working on right now, trying to confirm, and we're trying to call lawyers and family, and we're trying to talk to the people. Um, but there seems to be possibly starting tomorrow, possibly starting Monday, court in Lethbridge a little bit early. We're expecting it to be on Tuesday, July 25th as the next court date. But we now have some word, no confirmation yet, I'm just looking. We now have some word that they might be in session early. Don't know if it's an application request. Don't know if it requires the men or not. I know that only two of the men, I think, are in Lethbridge right now. The other two are not. So I'm not sure what's going on, but we're going to get some more of those details. But what we do know is there's some unscheduled court happening at least Monday, possibly Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So we're trying to find some of those details because anytime that the court so suddenly goes into session, it's usually emergency related or very important related or time is of the essence related. Maybe they don't want to keep them in longer than they need to be. I don't know. That's 100% speculation. But we're going to keep on top of that and see what is going on. Keep an eye on Twitter, and possibly during this episode, I will update myself and then update you on what's going on there. But hey, that's the business we're in now. We do news, and it's breaking news, and it's happening all the time. So I am keeping an eye on the screen here for you because if it comes up anytime soon, I want to bring it to you. But for today, let me go through our guests. We have a full slate. So it looks like we're going to be doing great. Base Bridget actually says, let me go to this comment. I'm going the 25th to hear for myself what's being said. I'm super excited to see the show of support there that day too. Yeah, Based. I'm excited about it too. We were talking about it today, who might make it there. And it looks like a whole bunch of people are going to possibly make it there. I'm even working on some press. She's trying to see what she can do. I'm even trying to get some more press there. But back today, we're going to go from the Maritimes all the way across the country to BC, then all the way up to the Northern Territories and talk to a whole bunch of people today. And in the Maritimes, we're going to have Paul Westhaver from the bottom 7-Eleven, stepping in for Morgan May. So Morgan May normally would be in this spot, but if you're paying attention to Twitter again, you know that Jeremy McKenzie had a court date today, and he's dealing with the prosecutor, the Crown. And the note I got was the Crown's getting frustrated because Jeremy's making him work hard, and the Crown's getting frustrated. Maybe the Crown doesn't have what they think they have. Maybe Jeremy's making them get what they're supposed to have because it was an application for disclosure today. So the only note I got was, yeah, it didn't go well for the Crown today. They seem to be a little bit frustrated. So you go, Jeremy. You go, Morgan. They're just driving back from Halifax. So she passed the baton off to Paul to take the lead. And we also have Chris steering today. And I see him in the lobby. He's getting his camera and everything good. So he's here. So we're in good shape there. Over in Quebec, we're going to have Bethan Nodwell. She's in Quebec and she knows her stuff. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. If you don't know who she is, she's a nurse who stood up to the COVID mandates, caused a lot of headaches in Quebec. It got some attention for it. And then she assisted the truckers with Adopt a Trucker. So she helped run that. And then from there, she's gone to a whole bunch of other great things. But she's located in Quebec and she's going to have a bunch of news for us in Quebec. And sitting with her will be Lex from the Big Puff podcast. He's ready to go as well. Over in Ontario, we got quite the matchup there. Donald Best will be back, and he's breaking a story. He's got his Ottawa thing going on where this officer is being charged and going through a trial for doing her job. Simply put, doing her job. Doing a good job, too. I'll let him tell you what's going on there, and he got some support out of a New York police detective or something like that. You'll see. Donald's got some good information there, too. And he'll be joined by Maggie, our good friend Maggie Hope-Braun. She's going to update us on all the stuff she's working on as well. Last week was amazing because she was telling us about the Independent Autumn Ontario 2026.ca.com, where the entire group is trying to get independents on all levels elected. So it'll be great to get an update from her. Over in Manitoba, we have Todd from the Winnipeg Alt Media joining us. He's going to be a regular. So just like Bethan, and Donald and Morgan May. You're going to see them every week, and then the guests that they have with them is going to vary. You might see some people regular, like Lex in Quebec, but you may also see different people showing up each time. But in Manitoba, we're going to have Todd from Winnipeg Alt Media, and he's going to be joined by Greg Arcade for the next 2 weeks. And Greg is trying to see if he can do some more live music for us. He's going to see what he can do. There's a storm there, might mess up his internet, but he's going to see what he can do. But we're going to have Greg Arcade for the next 2 weeks. And as a special surprise, next week is Steve Hansen, who's going to do some live as well. So we're going to be adding more music to the show. And we'll be doing some with Greg today. Saskatchewan, over there, we got Schmidt House Podcast, Zach Schmidt. He's the regular, and Mark Friesen, the Grizzly Patriot, should be joining. We didn't confirm that one yet, but when he's available, he comes for sure. So we probably will see him. In Alberta, we're going to do something a little bit different because Alberta is where I'm at. I did a speech in Drayton Valley on the weekend, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it for you. It's related to all the stuff we're doing here in Alberta, and I think it would be a great way to share that information to you. It's still valid. And then we can kind of move on to BC from that. But what I'll do is I'll play that speech for you. And if you have seen it, hope you don't mind. I don't know, maybe pick up something the second time around too. But if you have seen it or haven't seen it, then you should. I think it was a decent little collection of information. Over in British Columbia, we're going to have Chris Erickson. So he's going to be the regular there as well. And then every week we'll have somebody else in the second seat, or we might start having a regular. Because today we have Trevor, who's from Heard with Trevor, and he used to cover, and probably will still cover, a lot of stuff in the Parliament. So it'll be great to be able to catch up with him, meet him for the first time, and possibly make him a little bit more regular on the show. So we're looking forward to meeting you, Trevor. And then up in the Northwest Territories, or up in the Territories, covering Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, we have Melissa from Jobless Jabs. So we met her a couple times already, and now she's kind of taken over that lead as well. And she'll be working with Yukon Dan and bringing other guests as well. So now we basically have a full slate of regulars and someone who's going to be able to bring in guests, especially Beth Ann and a whole bunch of others have access to a bunch of different guests. So I hope you enjoy this format. We're going to be trying to add some more music, and we're going to be trying to have some regulars plus some surprise guests. Another thing we're working on possibly for next week, not this week, is to have a co-host with me to also come across the country. So if you see what we're doing here, we're going to be announcing a special co-host each week. We're going to have regulars on. We're going to have guests with them on. We're going to have music. Oh my gosh, I just saw Morgan pop up. That's amazing. So we get to have her today. Oh, wow, I'm excited. So I'll just update that. It doesn't look like we're going to have Paul today. We're going to have Morgan May herself. So that's wonderful. But we're going to start adding some music. So we'll have a weekly show that's live at night. It's not on a Saturday, but it's on a Wednesday. It's got a musical guest, and it's going to have a guest host. I hope you guys like that. It's not full of skits or comedy, although we will have some comedy sometimes, but it will have a lot of Canadian news. So as we're working this out in the next few weeks, hit me up in the comments, put it in the chat. Let me know what you think about the format, because we're trying to get it to you guys as best we can in 3 hours or maybe a little bit more. But we want it to be entertaining, have a musical break or two, and really get to know some people as we get to meet them each week, and then some new guests as well. But without further ado, we've got both of our Maritimes here. They're ready to go. It's looking wonderful. Oh, Chris is taking a sip. I'll wait till he's done. And we bring on Chris. And Morgan's typing away, and there's Morgan. And there's our flag. Thank you. Hello, Morgan, and hello, Chris. I'm good. How are you doing, Chris? Can you hear us, Chris?
Hey, Chris.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear us. We can hear you.
Yeah, we're good.
Can't hear us? Okay, great. Wonderful. And Morgan, you made it. I thought you might have been not be able to make it. You weren't sure yet.
Yeah, it was a long day in court. It was a good day.
It was a good day. Do you want to give us any update, or you want to just kind of leave that for later?
Yeah, no, I'll probably I have an ongoing list of court dates that I try to pin on all my social media. So we will be going back to court on the August 21st. And essentially, Jeremy's lawyer has filed a motion for, or will be filing a motion for abusive process, and he has some charter violations as well. And so we will see on the 21st, we will get the judge's decision as to whether or not she will proceed with those.
Oh, wonderful. That's my wedding date. So congratulations. You can borrow it for this year. Well,
Thank you.
no problem. No problem. Well, that's kind of good
Hopefully,
news then.
hopefully that means it's good luck.
Absolutely. Hopefully it was as good as it was for me that day. It ends well for you guys too. That's excellent. I'm going to jump to Chris and say hi, and then we'll get going. Hello, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry we missed you last week, but I do appreciate that you kind of let us know and you're here with us this week. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me on. We've been super busy lately.
Yeah, you're moving, right?
Yeah, we've been super busy. We've been packing, getting ready to leave. We haven't had a whole lot of time, and even to catch up on the media and stuff like that, I haven't had a whole lot in the last week. We've just been my whole garage right now is pretty much all of our contents of our house, and I have my beer loaded up right now, and the field's loaded up. So we're almost already set to leave, but we still have a few weeks to go. So we're just kind of playing it by day.
Well, here's the thing. You're in New Brunswick, right? And it's not a very big newsy place. So Chris moving is the big news there. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like I said, last or 2 weeks ago, I guess, we're moving from Hanwell, New Brunswick, to up north. Anyways, we're moving a few hours up north. We're moving from a 4,000 square foot home to a 600 square foot off-grid house to get off the government dependence, and we're going to start getting our animals and living off the land, and just start building a community up north with more like-minded people.
I like that where you said up north, and it's an undisclosed location. It's off-grid, 600 square feet. So do you already have your solar and everything set up? You bought a place that's ready to go?
It's all set up right now. Actually, yesterday I went and bought a wood stove so that we won't freeze during the winter. So, yeah, we won't have time to probably insulate the whole place before winter. So we're gonna just have an adventure for this winter and see you in spring.
Well, that's pretty cool. And a little tip from me is the Senville heat pumps. They're out of Quebec. They're out of Montreal. They're good for really cold weather. It's a good energy efficient way to get some heat out of those things. So if you're looking for those,
thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then Morgan, you had a busy day, but you've also been keeping up on the news and seeing what else is going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to like keep on my trend of sharing maritime events, I could definitely do that. In the last week, I had Dana Metcalf reached out to me. She's based out of Newfoundland, and she was actually also arrested for protesting at their premier's home. And I believe she was charged with criminal harassment. So I'll just kind of keep in touch with her while she goes through all of that. But she's just in the early stages. She probably has a couple years to go before she even sees trial, because we're like 16 months into our case and still no trial date.
Absolutely. And when you go from province to province, if you can say it, then we'll change the flag as well.
Yeah, I'll try. Sorry, these are not in the best of order. Yeah, we'll do where are we starting? Nova Scotia. So we still meet up at the mall every week. I will say the last week we actually had Antifa come out for the first time, but yeah, not too much of a threat. So this week it's at the Micmac Mall in the food court from 6 to 9 p.m. And we're harder to identify now that nobody's wearing masks, but we're the group of tables right when you first get off the escalators for anybody who's new. And then we also have Action for Canada. Tanya Gaw is on tour. And so I know she'll be in Sydney August. I'll try to go in order. What does it go from Thursday I guess Wednesday to Friday. So Wednesday, she's in Halifax. I don't know if it gives at the Maritime Drive Pentecostal Church in Musquodoboit Harbor. And I keep all of the details and times listed on my social media if anyone wants to go get more details. Thursday, she'll be in Truro as well as New Glasgow. And then on Friday, she'll be in Sydney, Nova Scotia. There's a rally in Sydney on July 22nd at City Hall. And it says, press freedom under threat. Canadians push to rescind Bill C-18. And then in Debert, Nova Scotia, when is this? August 20th at 1 p.m. is the Deep and Bunker event. I think I mentioned that last week. And so you can get a tour of their little nuclear bunker.
That'd be cool, actually.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know if I know of any events that are outside of. I have the Diagolon meetup in New Brunswick. If you want to
New Brunswick, okay.
switch over to the New Brunswick flag, there's just like a potluck and barbecue at Centennial Park, August 12th at 12:30. And there might be some follow-up events. I'll try to get more details. But nobody has sent me anything else from any more from Newfoundland, New Brunswick, or PEI. I know PEI, they had their Guns and Buns event. That looked like it went really well. And Michelle Lindsay hit up the IKEA drag queen story time all by herself and took some photos. And I know she interviewed some people who were attending with their children. And
so that's happening in IKEA now, the actual big box?
Yes, and there is another drag queen story time for children. I don't know if I think she listed that on her social media today. I'll see if I can find it.
So what are they serving for lunch at IKEA then if it's not meatballs? Don't know, do we?
But I don't even want to know, Jason. I don't want to know. What kind of meat?
Yeah, Beyond Meat, and it's not even balls. Gosh,
yeah.
It's just all cut up something. It's all pre-cut for you. There you go, pre-cut Beyond Meat meatballs.
Yeah. No, I can't seem to find the other drag queen event, but I think we have some time on that, so I'll just announce it next week when I find more details about that. But yeah, it's just becoming, she actually got the idea that she spoke to the drag queen, and it didn't seem like it was something they even wanted to do. So I'm interested to find out if they were kind of not forced, but maybe coerced into doing it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it's trendy. Unfortunately, we have to make it not trendy.
The story time for sure. And Chris, do you have this in New Brunswick at all?
Not that we've seen. We don't have we don't have the big drags, like the drag transgender people like they do in Toronto and stuff, and Halifax and that. Like we had a protest when they had the Bill C, was it 713? I think it was a few weeks ago, and there was about 15 of us outside of the school when they had the curriculum education going on. And I know that protest did have an impact, but there haven't been a whole lot since. And to be honest, since we've been so busy here at home, I haven't really had a chance to kind of catch the news.
Have you considered doing a vet story time hour and telling some really good stories, real good, like real traditional stuff?
We've actually debated that. There, my friend William Riddell, he was discussing with someone out in Ontario, I think, with the PBC or something like that, doing like a veteran story time. So I think something like that could snowball for sure.
Yeah, we'll stay away from the war stories, but we'll get into the classics, Goldilocks, etc.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Morgan, what about DAG Storytime Hour or Daggett?
Yeah, I need to somehow infiltrate the schools with Dag Queen Storytime. Mm-hmm. I found Michelle Lindsay's. So what it is it says join Halifax Shopping Center on July 28th for an all-day Pride celebration. So this is one of the drag artists' name. So I don't know if it's their Twitter handle. It's Richard Rockhard. That will be performing for your children.
Oh, right. So, wow. Yeah.
There's a dance party.
Go ahead.
I'm sure there is. So that will be interesting. What is it? That's on a Friday, so it might even land on the mall meetup night. I'm not sure yet.
And do you have any laws out there about not protesting them? Like in Alberta, we have stuff like that in Calgary.
Not yet. I'm
not
sure
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go on?
I find it interesting. It does actually land on the night that we would normally meet as a group at the Halifax Shopping Center, so it feels a bit purposeful. Maybe.
You think they're lining up with you?
Maybe it's a coincidence. But we have been going there for over a year, so I mean, I'm sure they know we're going to be there.
So do you think they're trying to instigate something with you, or provoke you, or are they just trying to take away? They're not taking your audience away, so that's not the case here.
Yeah, who knows? Could be totally random.
Okay,
but
cool.
it would be quite a coincidence, I think.
Yep. Do you want to talk a bit more about the case with Jeremy then? Because we still have about 8 minutes.
Yeah. So I shared Karima Sad's Twitter thread today. She was very thorough with all the details. It was dry by times. I'll just see if I can pull out any of the more interesting moments of the day. At one point, the Crown had mentioned that he didn't really consider. He said there's no evidence that Jeremy and I are, I don't know, involved in politics or interested in politics. Which anyone who follows this, right? Yeah, there's no evidence of that.
Now, how was that for you? Because they're trying to show that you were politically motivated and not terrorist or something like that. Is that what you're trying to show there?
Essentially, how did that come up? Jeremy, do you remember how that, I'm going to yell at him, how that came up? Why was the Crown saying that we were not really political?
He was making a point that we have the right to political expression.
Right, yeah.
That's what we were doing.
He was discussing our bail conditions and that we still can't name an elected official by name in protest, and how detrimental that is for us, and how it's a bit of it seems like a charter violation, because in a free democratic society, we should be able to say, if I don't like a certain politician because of their views, I should be able to say that, but I can't without going back to jail or breaching my conditions. And so,
gosh.
Yeah. So Jeremy's lawyer was stating that, not everyone is interested in politics, but we happen to have a great interest in it, and we should be able to express that.
Is this to remove your conditions that you're making these arguments? Is this what you're trying to do at this stage?
I think this would be part of, there are a few charter violations, like Jeremy's right to speak to his counsel was denied. Well, I don't know if it was denied, but he didn't get to for over 24 hours. They still have his cell phones.
Oh, this is when he was in jail. They denied him counsel for 24 hours?
Right.
Or holding, or whatever it's called?
Yeah, when we were, the first day we were in the holding cell. Freedom of expression. There's so many how many charter violations are there? Do you remember?
All of them.
So many. I mean, and we didn't even really get to discuss what happened while we were incarcerated, but we were in isolation for the full 4 days, and we were not permitted showers. Typically you get, I believe, at least an hour outside of your cell per day.
Oh, wow.
So that wasn't happening when we were in solitary confinement, because we would not get the PCR test, and they weren't offering like an alternative test. I know there are some tests you can do with saliva.
I just noticed James Sowery in the chat. He's the Alberta guy who just got convicted by jury. James, I think we're talking to you soon. Nice to meet you, bud. Sorry about that. I just see him popped up. I recognize that name.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Okay, and Jeremy doesn't want to say hi. I can hear him. We can hear Rage, but we can't see him.
Yeah, he's getting ready to take off.
Okay, well, tell him have a safe journey.
He has to make it back to Pictou in time for his curfew, and
sorry he has to live that way right now. Sorry he has to live that way. And Jared, if you can hear us, sorry you have to live that way, brother. Chris, you want to kind of tell us a little bit more about your plans once we get to your new place? I know you already have a place, but are you going to do anything to it? Add animals? What kind of animals?
Yeah, so I mean, the idea to get up there was pretty much to build a community there. There's a lot of like-minded people there already. So we plan on going there. And, we want to. Sorry, it's been a long day today.
Lots of people, like minds around you. Community, build it.
Yeah, no, we right now where we're living at, it's too expensive. It's crushing us, and where we're going to be headed, we're spending substantially less money, so we can do a lot more, and we can help a lot more people. And with with that like-minded community, as long as we can get the labor and the resources together, we can start building and uplifting other people. And if we can start doing that in one rural community, we can start doing that in other ones. And just, I mean, that's where it's going to start, right? Localism. It's not going to start in the cities. So
That's beautiful. So what do you plan to contribute to your community? Are you going to do goats or chickens, or what do you plan to
well,
contribute?
for this year, we have 2 gardens we have to get going. We need we want to do at least a few pigs, 40 or 50 chickens to start would be nice, or as many as we can. We're going to split wood concurrently, do fertilizer concurrently. Anything we can do that's just very easily concurrently that we can either give to people or barter or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we're not doing this to get rich or make money. It's more just to uplift other people and make other people's lives better, so our lives can also get better.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for names for those pigs, I got a few of them. You can start with Brenda Lucky. That'd be a good name. And then what else do you plan to get? Like, what do you need? Are you have everything ready, or is there anything you're going to need or have to build when you get there?
Well, nothing's ready. So right now it's a 3-season cottage on blocks.
So winter,
heading into winter. So we've had no time for contractors, no time for that. So it's putting in a good wood stove and maybe upgrading the solar panels so we have lots of energy, and hooking our generator, and then pretty much just waiting the winter out. But we'll be outside. We'll be doing stuff. We'll be building networks and community building. That's what we want to do anyways. We don't want to be hiding in the house. The whole point of the house is just to eat, sleep, and live. Whatever, you're not
right.
spending all your time there. So
yeah, for sure. And one tip I'm going to give you is treat your generator as good or better than the wife, because it's got to start at minus 30, and if it's not starting, you're going to be in trouble.
This is true.
So
yeah,
stay on top of that generator for sure. And I'm happy to announce that we actually have Beth Ann and we have Lex here, so we're going to bring them in and get our handoff ready. Hello, Beth Ann.
Hey,
and hello.
Hi guys.
Hi, hey, so excited to have you.
Hey guys.
Hey,
you guys know each other.
We do. Nice,
yeah, it's quite the family coming together here.
Totally, family reunion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, before we let Chris Deering go, I just wanted to mention that anyone can go back and watch his testimony at the POEC, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And then also, just hear about the abuse that he endured by the police during the Ottawa convoy.
Absolutely. And what they can do is they can find that on my channel. So I have the full interview from POEC, and then also check out my interview with Chris and Maggie from this year. So just a couple weeks ago. So you get an update of where he was and where he is now. It's quite the story. And it's sad. I even have a clip of him talking about the pain that he went through. And it still gets me each time. But yeah, thank you very much, Chris, for standing up for us and then updating us as you're going along in your journey here. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks,
and now, Morgan, today's theme or this week's theme is peace. So this was selected by the Yukon. So the Yukon contacted me and said, "What's the theme this week?" And I said, "Why don't you pick it?" And it became peace. So if you could do the baton to Beth Ann, and we'll pass it on to her, and we'll get on with Quebec.
Yeah, it's really funny. Peace was actually one of our biggest messages of today throughout court. So I will.
Small world.
Yeah, that's when I saw you wrote me that, I was like, okay, that's too weird. Too many coincidences.
Well,
okay, so I will.
This is in the Yukon, so maybe that's why.
Oh, maybe. All right. Well, Bethan, the floor is yours.
Peace out.
There you go. Yeah, well, peace out. There we go, across Canada. And thank you a lot, Chris. Thank you, Morgan. You guys take care. And hello, Beth Ann, and hello, Lex.
Hey. Hi. So I wore blue and white because it's.
Oh, look at that! You match your flag.
We're doing some Quebec themes, so there you go.
Well, bonsoir, bonjour, bonsoir. How are you doing?
Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ah, ça va bien, mais ça va bien. Ça va pas bien. It's not going well for Anglophones in Quebec. That's one thing that, you were saying, talking about what the situation is like in Quebec. And I would say I made a few phone calls, actually, just to get a temperature check. And yeah, definitely we have consistent problems now with this new Bill 96 that came in. And ultimately, it's sort of scrapped all the language rights for Anglophones in Quebec. I've grown up in this province. I did live outside of this province for a bit, but now we're not allowed to receive communications from the government or services from the government in the language of our choice. And so, and it's awful, right? It's like Bill 101 except on steroids, and they're saying that it is for the protection of language rights for the French, but ultimately it seems to be stigmatizing the rights of the English, and particularly the English that have been here for many decades. That's right, Ellen. Yeah. It is BS. It is complete, total, and utter BS. But even when I've had to, renew my driver's license or any kind of issues that you might have with the parking ticket, now there's a big long preamble saying, it is now due to this new law, we have to communicate with you in French only. And they're just sort of making it very difficult. There's many people I know who have moved to Quebec from the Maritimes and they don't have a good French. Well, you're screwed. And for immigrants coming in who don't speak French, they have 6 months to learn a language that actually takes years to fully understand and comprehend. So that's terrible in Quebec.
And what happens if you don't? Are they going to export you to Ontario? Like, what happens? You get fined?
Well, I mean, I guess like anything, if you're dealing with a fine, for example, then you're going to be taken on to the next level, right? And so you haven't had an opportunity to process, communicate about what's going on. And so they just amplify it. And then, how if you don't pay a fine, it doubles or it goes up by a percentage. Well, then your fine will amplify. I think it's just another way of creating division. And, if that is one thing government is good at, it's good at creating division. And so it's agitating Anglophones and making it an inhospitable province for people to live in, for Anglophones particularly.
So if we send the transfer payments, the equitable payments in English, is that going to be a problem?
That's right. Well, good thing cash is a universal language. But yeah, it would be nice to see those. It would just be nice to see those transfer payments from Alberta. Just hang on to them for a little bit, for a year or two, and watch the squealing coming out of Quebec. I'd love to see that, because
that would be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think Danielle has the kahunas for that, though.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, I'm going to run over to Lex next. So, Lex, how you doing, bud? First, do you want to say hi to Bethan?
Hello, Bethan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Big Puff Podcast.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, is this the first time you're aware of Lex and Big Puff Podcast?
Yes. I'm really stoked to meet you.
You're going to like him. Hey, Lex, I just built you up there, buddy. You better not let me down. So go ahead and tell me what's going on, bud. We haven't seen you for 2 weeks.
Yeah, good to be back. Nice to be talking with both of you. And just to springboard off of what Bethan has been talking about, language politics in Quebec, I'm very familiar with that subject. I am bilingual. I have an Anglophone mother and a Francophone father. So I grew up in both worlds. And so I have a very kind of unique perspective on that. And Bethan is 100% right that the government is tightening the screws on Anglos in Quebec. This is nothing new. It has always been a wedge issue in Quebec, especially in election season. And I would even go as to say that it's a wedge issue federally as well, right? That they try and sow division between Quebec and the other provinces.
Yeah, because does that put requirements on the other provinces in order to do business in Quebec? Like, are we going to have to change packaging or do stuff?
I'm sure that the division operates on a number of levels, but just on a social and cultural level, right? I think that happens, right? People, in my experience, people make a lot of assumptions about Quebec and about Quebecers. without ever having been here or lived here.
Right.
Right. But I also think that not only is it a wedge issue, but I also think it's a distraction issue. Right. They are tightening the screws right now. But I want to also draw everybody's attention to something else that's going on in Quebec right now. And this is my friend Dan Fournier, who is a Quebec investigative journalist, and he has a Substack called fournier.substack.com. And the other day he messaged me with a link reminding me that as of April 1st, 2023 in Quebec, there is a public health act in effect that allows for the mandatory V word of Quebec citizens if deemed necessary, and that anybody enforcing this act is immune from prosecution.
The vaccination registry coming into play too? They'll establish a vaccination registry in which all vaccinations received by person in Quebec are recorded. So, but then, do you like Calgary or Edmonton?
Yeah, I know. Like, everyone abandoned ship. So I did hear. I'm so glad that you brought this up, because yes, this was one thing that came up on another podcast I was on, and they brought it to my attention, and it had come to my surprise. I would like to know what news stories were being covered in April, like and it's like April Fool's Day. It's like, suckers. They pulled a stunt. Like, what were we talking about at that time that kept us so distracted from such an important piece of legislation? But it does dovetail with the World Health Organization, right? So if the World Health Organization declares a pandemic of monkeypox or whatever they declare, then now there are systems in place in Quebec where they will follow suit, and then they can come door to door. And that sounds a lot to me like quarantine camps for those that are non-compliant. So Quebec was a scary province to be in during COVID with our lockdown and kicking us out of churches and that kind of thing. It was a very frightening province to be in. And this just seems to, as he's saying, tightening the screws, like locking in procedures that they will have in place to handle the ungovernable in Quebec.
Well, here's the answer to your question. What was the news at that time? Your storm. So while you guys were doing this, you weren't talking about your thing. You were talking about your ice storm, freezing rain. Yeah.
Sure.
Engineered ice storm.
Right.
Sure, but they're not talking about your health act here.
Certainly not.
No.
And I'd also
no
like to,
there.
I like the word that Bethan used earlier, right? It dovetails this Public Health Act out of Quebec. It also dovetails with a federal story in Canada that has just dropped in the last couple of days. This is the National Advisory Committee of Immunization, which means the federal government. They are now recommending that all Canadians get their booster stabby in the fall 2023.
Right.
Yeah, we heard that news come out. Macus broke that on
Zero
Saturday.
data. Zero data to prove its effectiveness. None. We've given up on data. Like, to what extent
Data.
Stop transmission, stop infection, decrease hospitalization? Because this is booster 5, they got nothing. They have nothing. There are no studies. There are no short-term, there are no long-term studies to justify this. But they're going to roll ahead with their pharma campaigns nonetheless. It's terrifying.
I was pretty sure people were going to give up on vax number 5. So the first 2 plus 3 boosters, I thought for sure we were going to give up there. You're telling me we're on number 5 booster, and I saw Rachel Gilmore showing off her Band-Aid yesterday.
Right, but she's going to have to prove it with actually showing us her card, because I think she just put a Band-Aid on there.
Band-Aid on and took a picture. Well, she doesn't want to have a heart attack, so maybe you're right. She doesn't want to die. So
yeah, and it's and like there are really like as a nurse, you know, there's some very significant short-term and long-term health consequences that they don't seem to want to discuss, and to be promoting this is incredibly dangerous and reckless. It's like public health have zero concern with the health of the public. It's actually dystopian and frightening.
You're not wrong at all. You're not wrong. Lex, you want to continue a bit more on that?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on this story a little bit more. The National Advisory Committee of Immunization, right? The NACI, or as my co-host Beach likes to spell it, the NAZI,
Right. Okay.
Right?
We got that one.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
But
Yeah.
you want to say Z in Canada, do you not?
Yeah. Get
Good
that
one.
straight. Yeah.
Unless you're trying to be
license.
MAGA, because Trudeau says we're connecting with MAGA all of a sudden. So maybe that's the
Mm.
connection you're making there.
I accept.
I only have an interest in making dad jokes great again.
Yeah.
But I'll be
I like
curious
it.
in the fall to see how many quote unquote good Canadians roll up to the vaccination centers and roll up their sleeves as well. I'll be very, very curious to see that. But I'd like to say this, all of the what I call compliance theorists from the beginning of this pretend plague who willingly followed all of the orders and who shamed all of us who questioned them, who name called us, who ostracized us, and who pressured us. Are you going to be showing up for this recommendation? Are you going to be following this recommendation? You better be, because it's the same people whose orders you were following in 2021 and 2022. Well, they've got the same marching orders. Trust the science, trust the experts. Let's go. Line up and roll up your sleeve.
Well, I guess the good news is Macus was giving us some numbers on Saturday, and it's less than 10% who got the last booster. So that's some good news.
You know, I have a question for both of you, actually, since we were joking about data and statistics earlier. In Quebec, the Quebec government was telling us that over 80% of people were fully vaccinated. Do you believe those numbers?
Not at all.
No.
Not for a second.
No.
Not for a second.
Yeah. To me, it's a very simple propaganda technique called the bandwagon effect, right?
Or the
all
everybody
of these
jumping
people
off
are
bridge
doing it,
effect,
and
yeah.
you should too. Don't be left behind, right? And they were lying about everything. I'm sure they were lying about that statistic as well, which gives me hope. I think there are far more of us in Quebec and across Canada who would resist this, you know, the Quebec Public Health Act measures than there were in 2020.
Yeah, I know, it's the FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Correct.
And go ahead, Bethan.
Well, and that got me thinking about from the POEC, right? There was this evidence brought forward from Chrystia Freeland's notebook. And in Chrystia Freeland's notebook, she was writing to like the CEO of, I think it was BMO, Bank of Montreal. I think his name was Dave. And in the note, she said, unvaccinated truckers are 40 to 60% of, you know, the population or what have you. So, but she's saying unvaccinated truckers were 40 to 60%. Was it 40 to 60%? But nonetheless, we are dealing with they were promoting that unvaccinated truckers were only 10% of the population, right? And if we look at truckers like a microcosm of the macrocosm, then we were more likely, you know, 40 to 60% unvaccinated as Canadians as a whole. Sure, maybe there had been more in the healthcare industry and less in certain other industries, but nonetheless, we're dealing with a much larger number. Maybe it was it 30? Yeah, because the number 30 to 50%. I'm sure she said, and it's Chrystia Freeland's handwriting, and it's from a note in her notebook. And so, yeah, you remember that, Paj? Okay.
Yeah, I remember that too. That she was claiming as some other Dave.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a different Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, so it's 30 to 50%. So 30 to 50% is 40. And so that's a much larger number than 10%. And you're talking about a bandwagon. So now those numbers have only increased as the boosters have gone through. So as far as people who've only had 2 in combination with the unvaccinated, we are a huge demographic. We are a huge group. And they don't want us to know that. That's part of the PSYOP, you know, is that we don't realize the power of our own numbers.
100%. Now, Lex, I agree with that completely. Is there a way to find out these numbers or promote these numbers and maybe get it to the people?
That's a good question. I wouldn't know how to start.
Hit the streets and do some polls. Just talk to everybody.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, within my own circles, right? That's how I come to the conclusion that the data are misleading, because in my everyday life, it just doesn't match up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we saw the same thing with. Go ahead, Lex.
I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
No, most people in your circle, they didn't have it. Most people.
Yeah, most people within my circle did not. And I also know a lot of people who did and will never again.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also some deniers out there, and there's also some liars who said they took it but didn't. We got both of those out there as well. People that
That's
deny
true.
taking it. Yeah. So good luck getting real information. But
Yeah.
I can tell you anecdotally, just like you, most people around me didn't take it. Yeah. Now I don't know if we're gonna be on YouTube at the end of the night, but yeah, I don't think most people took it.
I mean, like the first two were compelled, right? And so that was the maximum amount of
Correct. It was downhill after
enrollment that they were ever going to get. And so maybe they got up to 60, 70%, but they sure as heck didn't get 90%, though they lied and said that that was our compliance numbers. Not true. So you'll never get to those numbers again. And I think if they were to threaten us with the military coming door to door, or that, you know, they take a more hostile approach, the more activated I think the resistance will become. Like, they should be very careful with that strategy, because it's not going to go over well with the public. Like taking away grandma's vitamins, that is not going to go over well with what they're doing with the natural health natural health products, new regulations. That's not going to go over well. Grandma loves her vitamin D and her coenzyme Q10 and that kind of stuff. They love their vitamins, and you're about to take them away. Not going to go over well. Bad plan.
No, I don't mess around with Grandma's Big D. That's a bad idea. I'll leave it with her. She wants to keep that. And what I found out this morning, talking to Rob Anders and some people out in Alberta, you like that.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Told
like,
you we'd have some comedy.
Like sitting in that chair too long, because like it's
Maybe
anything
the air in here needs to circulate.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. In Alberta, we found out that our juries had to be vaccinated. Mandatory, required. You couldn't be on a jury without vaccinated. So that ended up becoming a filter of people that comply and agree with government. That's dangerous if this is what's making up our jury. And we actually had somebody convicted recently by jury that really shouldn't have been. In fact, he's in our chat. He's the guy who got my attention, James. He had that problem. So we have vaccinated jury members who, by de facto default, aren't the most logical people in my mind. Is that going to be a concern for you too, guys? We'll start with Lex. If your juries are required to be vaccinated, and that's the way we do the legal system now, is that a concern to you?
Absolutely. And seeing as today's theme is peace, I've actually had on my mind today one of Peter Tosh, the great reggae musician, one of the
I think it's
Wailers.
Daniel Tosh.
No, Peter Tosh, right? And he has this song called Equal Rights, and the lead off lyric is, everyone is crying out for peace, none is crying out for justice. And I'm all for peace and love, but I think as Canadians, we should start talking about justice as well. There are a number of Canadians who are deserving of justice, right? Jason, you're doing a great job, and others covering the Coots 4, right? You have Morgan and Jeremy before us who are dealing with justice issues, and the list goes on and on. And so I'd like to add that to the overall Canadian conversation, right? It's like, let's advocate for peace, but let's start talking about justice too. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, I know. We were talking about that on the show too, because we don't have a justice system in Alberta. We have a legal system, and you're not getting justice out here at all. Now, Lex, what would you define justice as versus the legal system?
That is a good question. I don't know. I would probably have a more spiritual answer for that, right?
Try that. Go ahead with that.
Okay, well, you're putting me on the spot here, but I think it would be something, I would have to look to something biblical to answer that question. I really need more time to think about that, right? But the legal system is definitely not the place to look for justice. That is for sure.
Yeah, and then Bethan, you want to take a crack at that?
Well, you know, this is something that justice is in the realm of man. When it comes to vengeance, you know, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So we let vengeance, we let God handle that. But as far as justice is concerned, that is in our jurisdiction. And I think as far as being, a vocal member of the freedom movement, that's all we want. We're not looking for a Muammar Gaddafi kind of vigilante, vengeance on Trudeau, but we are looking for justice. And it's Trudeau, and it's Tam, and it's Freeland, and it's Mendocino, and it's Algabra, and it's Jolie. Like there's a big long list of them. And then there's, provincial premiers. But we are now, with the evidence coming forward about the dangers of mRNAs, and that information, people were not given informed consent. We have a very serious case. And Florida is leading the way with that. So justice, it'll be great to see, to see Trudeau and Tam being treated the same way Pat King and Jeremy McKenzie have been treated.
So are you calling for the removal of one of their legs?
In an accident, like over the edge of a multi-storied building? No,
because if he treated like Pat King, he had that issue with his leg where he got an infection and all that.
An infection in his leg, and he was going septic. And
so we have to do this to them too, then.
Yeah, well,
justice.
That feel of the metal handcuffs going around their wrists, the sound of the door banging behind them, those little moments that they'll get to experience, because they are guilty of crimes against humanity.
And I was going to say that's the one thing they will not experience, which is to be innocent and be charged. That's a different feeling. To be innocently charged, there's nothing like that. They're going to be guilty and charged. That's a different feeling. They're never going to feel what Pat felt.
And we've done an amazing job, like as far as the freedomers and just Canadian public, the fact that, they show up and they yell and they scream, but nobody's actually physically harmed that man. They've thrown mean words and mean tweets at him, but that's the worst that we've done. We've showed an incredible composure considering what has been done to us. But I do feel that their time is running out, and their options are getting fewer, and their plans keep getting foiled. So I remain optimistic.
Well, let's pass that peace baton over to Donald Best, who's a corruptions investigator, and he's the type of guy who goes and looks for people that do this kind of thing. So maybe passing that piece on to him, we'll get some justice. And next week we'll make it justice. So next week we'll be getting ourselves ready for some justice. Okay, there, Lex.
All right. Well, nice to meet you, Donald Best. You
nice
are
to meet
the best.
You, Bethany.
And I pass the peace baton over to you. Thank you, Lex. Thank you for your time. And hi, Maggie. Hi.
Stick around and watch Maggie. There you go, Donald. Thank you, Lex.
You're all my friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is your reunion here, Bethan. You just stick around and hang out. Cheers, cheers. Thank you. Bye, Lex. Hey, Donald. Sorry about that. But here we go. We're in Ontario now, and I know you're ready.
Well, fairness is the enemy of justice. By the way, how's my sound level?
Wonderful. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
And it sounds clear too.
Good. Yes, fairness is the enemy of justice. Everything was to be fair, but justice isn't about fairness. Justice is about justice. People getting what they deserve. Now, I hear a lot of optimism. I'm sorry. Every one of our foundational institutions in our society is absolutely corrupted. And it's corrupted in a couple of ways. Systemically, because of how we set it up. Hey, the lawyers investigate themselves. The judges investigate themselves. And so systemically, it's set up to be corrupt. But as I keep saying here, it's only 1% of the people in any profession, really, cops, lawyers, doctors, teachers, only 1% who are truly, really corrupt in their heart. But it's the 98% that look at it, see it, and say nothing, look the other way. They empower the corruption. And, so that's the way things are. And once in a while, somebody comes along and fights it. These whistleblowers, these anti-corruption advocates, and usually they pay the price.
Yes.
So I don't know what the answer to that is, except less government propaganda media, and more independent media just like this.
I love it. I love it. Promote the independent media. You're right. Hey, Maggie, how you doing? So you got to hear a bit of a piece. We got to pass the baton on. Donald talked about some justice, and now we're talking about independent media. You might be muted on your end, just so you know. There you go. Hi, Maggie. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having
me. Very good, and thank you for coming. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, the justice is something that we're lacking, and the people have been looking for it for a long time, like John Best just spoke to. And it is coming down to a matter of a very small group of people that are highly networked together, that are working behind the scenes. And we have the numbers. If we network as effectively, we can combat it. So we need to work together to find the people who can help us uncover. For myself personally, I've been working on deciding what to do moving forward with the municipalities, and what I did the other week in bringing forward the UN takeover to our municipalities in town council, and deciding what to do. Do we do a notice of liability? Do we do a forensic audit? You know, we talked to the lawyers, and we haven't found one who is willing to do that for us. So this is kind of where we're at, and we just have to keep on throwing the darts to see what will stick, and and what doesn't work and what will work. So eventually there will be solutions that come to the surface. And
well, you're in Ontario, right? And this is administrative law you're filing in. So you're going to do a hearing or a tribunal. Is that what you're trying to get into?
so this would be at the municipal level.
Mm-hmm.
The governments have restructured the municipalities across the entire country.
Yes.
Created private corporations that have assumed the title of our towns and cities.
Right.
And our mayors and councillors are now working in partnership with those private corporations. And those private corporations are taking funds from UN-based organizations like ICLEI, which is a UN consultant group. And these are the experts that are steering the changes in our municipality and the 15-minute cities and everything. So we're trying to figure out who runs who. Does the mayor run the private corporation? Can he fire the CAO of that corporation? Or can he resign from his position and then become our real mayor and represent us instead of representing the private corporation? So I'm sorry if I'm going off topic, but
no. I'm trying to think of which jurisdiction and which place you bring this, because it could determine whether or not you can use a paralegal as well. Because I am a paralegal in Ontario, so I'm wondering if paralegal could be an option as well instead of just lawyers.
Absolutely. So maybe somebody out there, they can reach out to me at.
Well, I'm thinking about Jane. Remember Jane, the paralegal, the POEC for Bridget? Remember her? Jane, the paralegal?
Jane.
Bridget Belton's representative?
From Stanford E?
I don't know. It was during the POEC.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Yeah, oh, you got to see that one. So go to Bridget's interview at the beginning, her paralegal Jane. We can contact her. She's feisty and she's quite the fighter.
Yeah, well, anyone out there who's interested, my email is gather2030@protonmail.com. And if you understand what I'm saying and would like to help, I think we need a forensic audit of all of our municipalities, because there's so much money that's been funneled to them from the UN through ICLEI since 1994. And they've basically, like I said, been behind the scenes running the show, and our mayors and councils aren't working for us. And we got to get through to the mayors and councils that want to do the right thing, because I believe probably about a third of them either don't fully understand what's happened and would like to actually work for the people of their towns. So
I agree with that. There's several of them have no idea, and they're just going along with the program, and they don't even know it. So I think it's a good approach. I'm going to jump to Donald now because Donald wants to tell us a bit about what's going on in Ottawa and this case he's following. Hey, Donald.
Well, there's some really interesting breakthroughs going on. First of all, this is the case of Ottawa Police Detective Helen Gruce, who's charged, and it's almost unbelievable what she's charged with doing an unauthorized investigation into the potential connection between mRNA vaccines and sudden infant deaths. Now, if you read my pieces, any police officer has all the authorization they need to initiate any investigation that they want to. That's the way we've structured things. So they've shut down her investigation. They suspended her. Then they charged her. And lo and behold, along comes famed NYPD detective Frank Serpico, as in the book Serpico, as in the movie Serpico, where Al Pacino played him. And he's legendary. Medal of Honor recipient, and set up and shot in the face by corrupt cops because he was part of the Knapp Commission. He revealed all the corruption in the New York police force in the 1970s, or late 60s, early 70s. So he comes along and he says, regarding the cover-up that's in place right now by the Ottawa police, Detective Serpico says, incompetence or criminality will go to any length not to be exposed, even at the cost of innocent infant lives. Wow. And what that's all about is the investigation that Detective Gruce initiated to look at a potential connection between the COVID vaccines and 9 sudden infant deaths. That was shut down. Well, since that time, we know from the Center for Disease Control, we know from the Pfizer documents that there's a connection, and that the vaccine, the mRNA vaccine, expresses itself in mother's milk. So we're doing a big experiment right now. We're feeding this vaccine to newborn infants through their mother's milk, and that's just incredible. So that's what he's talking about. Now there's a cover-up going on in Ottawa. I've written about it at donaldbest.ca, and there's more coming. Believe you me, there's more coming. First of all, the cover-up, 4 parts. Right now, Detective Gruce's investigation was shut down. Well, that was a cover-up. That's number 1. Number 2, during the April 28th, 2023 hearing that recently happened into her case, we heard that the original Ottawa police investigations into those 9 deaths that Detective Gruce was reinvestigating, we heard that they were substandard, they were shoddy, incomplete reports, sloppy investigations, and that the issue of the potential mRNA vaccine as a cause was not looked at, or it was rejected by the original investigating detectives. So that was shut down. That's another cover-up. Number 3, the Ottawa police refused to release written decisions in the case made by the judge, made by the trials officer. They refused to release motions. Now, this means that a good part of the trial is being conducted in secret and out of public view. I've asked, and I've been refused, these documents, which are normally public documents in any legal proceeding. So again, they're covering up.
Yep.
Number 4, Ottawa police falsely informed the public and the journalists, including myself, and even on their website, that the trials officer, the judge, had not made a decision on a December motion put forward by the defense. That was an absolute lie. He made the decision on January 30th or January 31st. And 2 months later, they're telling us there's still no decision, and they had that on their website. That's all laid out on my website too. And the 5th thing is the Ottawa police were broadcasting the Gruce hearings on Teams on the internet, and all the public could watch, and any journalist from anywhere could follow it. And then they stopped. And they said, "Oh, COVID's over, so we're going to stop public broadcasting." Well, guess what? They're still broadcasting other cases, including one scheduled in November of this year, but they've stopped broadcasting the Detective Gruce case. It's all a big cover-up.
Yep.
They're in big trouble. They are in big trouble. So I'm following that case very closely, and it's scheduled on August 14th for the trial. It's supposed to be 4 or 5 days. I hear rumors about certain witnesses that some people say are subpoenaed or called. I don't know. The defense isn't talking. They won't talk to any of the press. And there's a complete shutdown by the Ottawa police. But I'm going to be there, and so are people from a lot of media, including some of the legacy media. So we'll see. That's the cover-up that's ongoing right now with the Ottawa police.
Oh, wow. And speaking of cover-up, let me just confirm it right now. Nope, I can't confirm it right now. I also want to just highlight somebody who's in the chat right now, Kirk Reese. I did an interview with him yesterday. He's a whistleblower. He's dealing with some pretty corrupt stuff as well, Donald. If you get a chance, maybe over the next week or so, it's a 2-hour interview. Just throw it on, throw it in the background, see if you if your ears pick up some stuff there, because it may be a drug ring he stepped into. Government sponsored, some sort of money there. But take a listen to it. Kirk's in our chat right now. Nice to see you. And Chris Stacey, I saw you as well. Nice to see you, buddy. Maggie, let's go back to you. You were also talking about some independent stuff yesterday or last week, running, and you're talking about some of that here as well. Do you want to follow up on that?
Independent stuff for running, is that okay? Well, there is the Independent Ontario 2026 is something that people from across the country or across Ontario can get involved with. What they're looking for, this is my organization, but they're looking for independent candidates to run in all levels of government, from municipal to federal, and to get the practice that they need too. So whenever there's an election for anything to run in their local riding, and even to have a couple of them. So they're even 2 to 3 in each riding, so that the people can start getting more practice and get more involved and get more of our voices out there. And we can sift out who the leaders are and who the good speakers are for our side. So that's Independent Ontario 2026.
2026, that's 4 years before 2030. So hopefully we can get her done, right?
Yeah, we can't, like I said last week, we can't just jump in and think we're going to win. We tried that the last 30 years and we get 2% of the vote. So we have to do more. We have to organize a lot more effectively at the local level and get the grassroots going and actually be interacting with all the people in our communities that have stopped voting, for one thing, and actually start serving in our communities before even being elected. So I believe that that's the strategy that we can follow that will be effective. That seems to work. The Rotary clubs and other societies that operate behind the scenes in our towns across, they have a very standard practice of first doing community projects in their communities and getting the names of the people that they want to get elected known in the communities, And then when the election comes, the community is aware that those individuals are known leaders that serve the community. So that's the kind of groundwork that that I'm promoting at this point. And of course, independent candidates are a great way to go.
I have to agree with you on that one there, Maggie. Just a little biased. I have to put my bias out there, but I do think independent candidates are the way to go. And I see Greg Arcade with his guitar and stuff on, so I'm gonna be popping him up here just to give him a heads up, hey buddy. And we're going on to Manitoba. I don't see Todd yet, but Todd usually shows up a few minutes later.
And I'll add one more to that.
Yeah, please go ahead, Maggie, and then we'll pass it off to. I'll have you do the baton of peace over to Greg when you're done.
Oh, perfect. The last thing I'll add to that is every riding needs to be looked at more strategically. So, of course, in some riding, the independent candidate will be the one that is overall promoted. Other ridings, other candidates from other parties as well. And to look at it more strategically is what we as the people who are part of this movement need to come together and meet on and decide, kind of like a union would decide, where are we going to put our votes together, and to do that strategically instead of getting so divided. So I'll pass the baton over to Greg Arcade. I love your music.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Maggie, would you say that the independent push is a homegrown type of thing? Homegrown? Gotcha.
Yeah, I got a song
Thank you,
called
Greg.
Homegrown. That
Yes.
was a great
Yeah,
interview,
yeah.
you guys.
You like that?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
watching for the last bit here.
Oh, you'll love the rest of the show. We do this all the way across the country.
Yeah, but you go so late, man. I'm in bed by 8:30. I need hours to chill
Fair
out.
enough. Fair enough.
I'm just
Well,
kidding.
you can watch the rerun later.
I'm seeing you every week now. What's this about?
Apparently, we got something going on here. But thank you very much, Maggie, and thank you, Dawn. Dawn, I'll see you in the morning, and we'll catch up again. So Dawn's going to be the regular each week. Maggie's going to come back often, and we'll figure this all out. So thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
And Todd just showed up too. There we go. Okay, so bye, Donald.
Yo, Todd.
And Maggie. I'm just gonna push a button. There we go. Hey, Todd.
Man.
Good to see you.
Good to be back, of course. Good to see Greg as well, too. Greg is...
Been a wild McDougal.
Yes, it has. Yeah, me and Greg used to talk pretty often back right in the middle of the COVID clown world era.
Yeah.
And he helped out. He helped quite a bit. He did some cool design for Winnipeg Alternative Media, and I'm a huge fan of his music. His music is awesome.
Thank you.
Well, then do us a favor, and we'll let him. Maybe he's got a guitar in his hands. Got a headphone on. We'll see what happens.
Trying to figure out a song I can play for you guys. It's weird because I don't play live much, so I do more layering in the studio. But if you don't know, I have an album coming out September 1st. It's on pre-sale right now at gregarcade.com. It's called Soundtrack to the Collapse, and this isn't on it. This is on my old record, Rolling Thunder. But I think Jason likes this song, so I'm going to do it for him.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully you can hear this one. Can you hear that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
When I die, when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song, burn that fire till the woods are gone. Burn that fire till the woods are gone, keep it bright till the break of dawn. Don't be sad if I've moved on. Just bury me with my boots on. When I die, when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song, burn that fire till the woods are gone. Be it gun, be it rope, be it free from pain, I hope. If it be when I am old, just bury me with my boots on. When I die, when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song, burn that fire till the woods are gone. This is where I was born and raised, this is where I'll end my days. When Jesus lays me in my grave, I'll pray that I'd be saved. and that I lived in a way that'd make those around me proud to say, when I die, when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on, play my favorite country song, burn that fire till the wood's all gone. When I die, when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on, don't be sad if I am gone. Just burn that fire till the wood's all gone.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Thanks,
it. I
buddy.
love it.
I had to
love it.
kind of
That's
relearn
great.
some of that one as I played it. It's been a bit. It's been since Alberta in April 8th since I played that.
And you were out here for the fundraiser for that one?
Yeah, we did that fundraiser with Granny McKay, Jacqueline, all the girls in Olds at the Willow something barn, Willow Creek barn, Willow something like that. Beautiful venue. Had a lot
Thank
of
you so
people
much
out
for doing
there.
that.
Yeah, man.
That was a beautiful rendition. I loved that a lot. Great. You know I like your music. And we saw some of the chats coming up. Trevor there just heard you for the first time. He wants to know where he can find more of your music.
Trevor, I don't put any of my stuff on platforms that are trying to destroy us. So nothing on Spotify, nothing on Apple. Best place to get it is go to gregarcade.com. You can buy digital copies of most of everything. There's a bunch of free albums you can buy there. Free albums you can buy for $0. There's also some merch, and then I've got a new album coming up as well too. If you like that last song, it's on the Rolling Thunder record.
Wonderful. And as a little treat to everybody, we'll be playing The Great Awakening at the end of this broadcast today.
Yeah, awesome.
We'll be playing that one. Yeah, brother. And Todd, you're loving that song, did you? You were expecting some news, but we got some Greg Arcade today.
Yeah. Well, when you told me that Greg was coming on, I mean, I'm sure you recall my response to you was instantly excited about it. Like, you know, I think I told you immediately, like, oh, I love Greg. You know, I haven't talked to him in a while. But yeah, no, I know that song. I know the entire record, Rolling Thunder. I don't think there's much of Greg's music that I don't know anymore. In fact, there were some tunes that I even used to spin during broadcasts on Winnipeg Alternative Media as well, too, because so much of Greg's music is like, it is direct, you know, almost kind of informative sometimes, freedom fighter kind of, you know, like put your fist in the air, like really good sort of, I don't want to call it like almost like protest kind of like country or whatever, but
it kind of is, man.
It kind of is. It's got that old school. It's got that old school sort of badassery to it, sort of like a Hank Williams, right? Where you're singing about something and you are out to defeat something with your music.
Yeah.
It's Greg's music is excellent.
Come and get it's like that for me.
Thanks. So yeah, come and get it. That was a fun one. That was the one that got Anti-Hate's Panties in a Twist.
Nice. Nice. When you can do that with music as well too, that's fucking.
Oh,
that's
it's funny,
cool.
man. It's like the left thinks they have a lockdown on everything, on art, on music, on all this. It's like, oh, it's only good if we do it. If you believe in the causes we believe in, it's like you won't believe in anything. You believe in what you're told to believe that week. So it's just like, what can you do, right? Like live your life about it. Live your life around them. Yeah,
that's right.
And what we're going to do Greg, is kind of announced here that each week now we're going to be adding more music to this show. So we'll be reaching out to different artists, different culture makers, and next week it's going to be Steve Hansen. So Steve Hansen's going to be.
I have some music I can bring to the broadcast as well too. I'm a musician myself. In fact,
Todd
yeah, I got quite a bit of music, including even a song called "Prairie Truth," the Winnipeg Alternative Media kind of catchphrase or moniker, and it all came from a song that I had written just as I was kind of starting Winnipeg Alternative Media, or even before actually. And I've used that as kind of a bit of a theme song off and on for years. So yeah, let me know. I'd be happy to bring some music to the table as well too.
Very
good,
Todd
very good.
rules, man. Todd, you rule, man.
And you work with other artists too,
Greg.
Greg. That was something I found out about you before the interviews. You actually work with some other artists as well, help produce their stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing it for lots of years, right? Like, you fumble through it when you're younger, especially when you realize like the system isn't set up to help you, isn't set up to help artists. It just defrauds them into thinking they're being important at the same time telling them to buy plays, you know? So it's like, that's not real. That's not going to turn into monetary success for you. All that's going to do is turn into you getting angry at people who are being successful. And there's a lot of that in especially Canadian entertainment. So like you just kind of, you realize you got to shut it down. You got to shut down dealing with all these scenes of people and just do your own thing. And then you build like good friendships over the years, like with Todd, right? Like I haven't talked to Todd in probably over a year, but I know he's a great dude and I always look forward to it. So when he said he was going to be on the show, I was pretty pumped.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like what Greg was saying, you know, whether we're talking music or whether we're talking, you know, what I do with media and what I did in music as well too. So funny enough, I guess, you know, it's kind of like the way I've attacked a large part of my life and the interests and things that I, you know, end up spending a lot of time and energy with, which is being fiercely independent is like it's the way to go. If you can really stick to your guns, if you really do have a strong idea and some, you know, maybe good kind of like backup as far as just like, you know, a bit of a network goes, like friends, family, whatever that might be, that can, you know, assist you when necessary, then being fiercely independent is always the best way. Like Greg was just talking about with in the music industry, the entertainment industry, I think the more fiercely independent you are, if you really stick to it, the more successful you are, and the more that you will have some longevity and some endurance, because if you go through all those steps to really prove that being fiercely independent was the right way to go throughout that process, what you're going to gain along the way is going to be exponential. It's going to be worth its weight in solid gold, and you're probably going to be able to stick around and enjoy wherever you get with that a lot more. And of course, the same with media. And let's also like, and we can talk about it in two ways. We could talk about it in sort of how important it is because of you know, keeping your own integrity and being able to also enjoy maybe the fruits of your labor a lot more. But it's also just completely obvious at this point in time, because like with media and like when we see, you know, Hollywood, you know, the music industry as well too, is they're all completely really, they're all one-sided. It's of course, we could go further into detail about how the majority of them are controlling really bad people. But
the two sides they present are still on the same side, right? Like I made a post on my Telegram today that was like, okay, choose one of the three. You can go to the Country Music Awards with Maren Morris and dance on stage with transsexuals, or you can go on a private jet with Jason Aldean to a small town for the only 2 hours he's been in a small town this year to shoot his small town video. Or you can go with me, stay poor, and we can just go like steal their CDs from Walmart and shoot them. You know, everyone picked three, right? Because it's like that's the real stuff at the end of the day. Because you got to be able to see through. A lot of people going like buzzy for this Jason Aldean song, but like at the end of the day, Jason Aldean was used to usher in a destruction of the art form, which was country music. And if you really want to read into it, I'm actually going to be on another podcast talking about that soon, but I don't want to interrupt the show with that info. So yeah.
I know exactly what you just said, Greg. That's kind of exactly the point I was trying to get to. It's always, you know, just the same as we see people. It's always the worst kind of product from the other side. Just the same as we see tons of people moving over to independent media, moving away from the mainstream legacy corporate media. More people even becoming independent media, citizen journalists, so on and so forth, and being successful in doing so is because the writing is on the wall. Everybody knows it now. It's impossible to run away or hide from it. You can lie to yourself, whatever. But we all know that the mainstream media is, of course, entirely crooked, absolute liars, don't serve the purpose of journalism whatsoever anymore. So then that choice is just obvious. And really what I was trying to get at is you can say the same thing for picking up a guitar, and wanting to go make it somewhere in country music.
Well, it's important right now, I think, for everybody to use their own like moral barometer when selecting a media source, right? Like, okay, oh boy, Tucker Carlson, he's on our side and he's independent. It's like, no, he's not. Like, you know, and like he'll say things that are make you happy. Same thing with Russell Brand. It's like, oh yeah, he's all about health and stuff now. It's like, well, he was provided. Like, okay, Jason Aldean's doing this right-wing switch or something because it's profitable for them, right? But it's like, look how many artists actually fought through this time who haven't lost what they were the whole time, and they're staying to that. Like, so if you're going to be selecting music on that basis, maybe look for the authenticity behind it. And it's the same thing with like Winnipeg Alternative Media. It's the same thing with Jason's show. You know, there's authentic things that are there, and then there's things that will be presented to you, which, you know, you can still watch them and enjoy them. They're going to say things you like, but always be careful because it's a pretty big psyop and there's a lot of tentacles to it. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And one
Yeah,
thing I
agreed.
liked about my interview with you, Greg, was you do every part of it. So you do the website, you do the
Yeah.
editing, you make the
Well,
video,
doing
you do the
real
music.
DIY, right? That's one thing that I love when you see a hashtag on like a social post and it's like somebody who like just took a bunch of things they ordered on AliExpress and then put them in a package and resold it, and it's like DIY support local business. It's like, what about that is local? And like, I didn't invent the guitar. Whoa, I didn't invent the guitar. I didn't invent the recording equipment, but I'm about as DIY as it comes, other than like the stuff I can't have a printing press in here. Like I don't have that much space, you know. But like,
Well,
it is the same with like you guys too. It's true DIY, and that interests me because you're seeing an actual piece of someone's soul when they present it to you in this content, as opposed to like packaged as their soul. You know, like their team packaged it to look like they made it. So it's
absolutely.
yeah.
And then what you end up getting out of it, though, is no barriers. So you're able to put together a James Top song in 24 hours, video
Yep.
and all. You didn't have to wait for somebody to get back to you. Check
I didn't
the
have to wait
script,
for
check
somebody to
the-
tell me that might not be good for your brand. You know, like when
Right.
was it Paul Brandt at the Coots thing, right? I got into a fight with someone on Telegram about this because they're like, I was in a couple of groups talking with them about it. Like, Paul Brandt's gonna fly in with his helicopter. No, he didn't. He didn't fly into town and violate any rules. He flew outside of town, and Adam Skelly had to go drive and pick up the supplies and bring him into town. You know, like, so like, and they're like, yeah, Paul Brandt's really, really on our side. And then he releases that thing. It's like, wow, it's really cool that these people like my song and these people associate it with their movement, like being really careful so that he doesn't like step on any toes. It's like that tells you exactly what you need to know about these mainstream, especially Canadian mainstream country artists. It's just a facade, man. There's nothing real there. There's more realness in like the downtown honky tonkers that hate my guts than there is in like, you know, like these big artists who are just like, as soon as your show gets big, they'll be excited to be on here. But until then, they don't care about the cause. They don't care about the actual message behind what they're standing behind. And it's out of that stuff aggravates me.
I wish I could say this for Canadian country music, but I don't really know of an artist. Well, I mean, other than, of course, you yourself, Greg, I don't really know of any others that come to mind. But for American country music artists, and this is an interesting one, I want to see if you agree with me, because that seemed to be, from what I've seen and what I've heard, and what I've watched as well, too, that it seems to be 100%, you know, bona fide, legit for the right reasons. But, and I wonder how many people out there know this, Aaron Lewis.
Oh yeah, Aaron Lewis is all right. It's from Sting,
and his switch to country music, and also to write kind of, you know, some some very different kind of stuff than he did with Sting, like writing patriotic music. And
I used to not like Aaron Lewis just because he had that one event where like he's like, okay, now I'm gonna unplug my guitar and you guys are gonna listen without the microphone, and then people were talking and he like had a hissy fit and left stage. But at the same time, I wasn't there. I didn't see what happened. I can't like really hold an opinion about the guy because of that. I was just kind of like, it's not like, oh, I hate the guy because of this. It's just like, oh, what a bitch move. But, but you know, you got other artists who are more based and have always been based. Travis Tritt has been based through his whole thing. He has like, he put out a record during this stuff, which is just all good. And another good artist for this a group, Blackberry Smoke, canceled tour dates in Canada because they wouldn't come if they wouldn't let people who have been medically violated. You know, like people who have been medically violated were the only people allowed there, and people who refused to be medically violated, they were not allowed in the venue. So Blackberry Smoke canceled their tour dates. You know, and there was a few other, and Blackberry Smoke's wicked. Like at first I thought it was the opposite, and then a buddy of mine, J.W. Mickle, great artist out of Calgary, he corrected me because he had tickets to a show. And I had thought that they canceled it because they were like, oh, it's scary out there. But they were actually like, no, if everybody can't come, we're not doing this. It's the same thing I did with Manitoba Stampede. They're nice people, but they're like, yeah, we'll let you come, but we can't let others come because you know these rules. And I was like, I'm not coming. You know, and it's like, it's just funny stuff, you know, like I had with the Manitoba Country Music Award that they took away from me. Blew it up at Tannerite. I've got it right over there if you want to see it. If they were not going to let people who weren't medically violated. Yeah, they weren't going to let them come. So there's all these, like, everybody's fake and everything's really fake. And so just like, I don't know, things are dumb, and just kind of stick with the people who you've met through this period who've been authentic, because this has been a blessing from God. It's weeded out everyone around us who doesn't deserve to be around us.
I agree with that statement, actually.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no place in the world where you're going to exist without people coming at you. So if these people are mad at you because you refuse to be medically violated, if these people are mad at you because your opinions are different than them, it's just like, that's just part of life. Like, conflict and war is part of life. So, like, embrace the struggle. That's it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Greg and Todd. And it is time to pass it off now to Zach. So I'm
you
gonna
kidding
get
me?
you, Greg.
Todd, we should
It goes by quick. You should.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometime, not tonight.
Yeah,
Absolutely, brother. But we'll get you, Greg, to pass off the baton of peace over to Zach over in Saskatchewan.
Oh, Zach. See you, Schmitty.
Thanks, Greg.
I was talking to him today. Okay, bye.
Well, yeah, very cool. Small world. Take care.
We were chit-chatting on Telegram about a couple of things. So yeah.
Right.
Talk to you later, Greg.
Man.
Country music in Saskatchewan. Are you gonna get them out there? What are you doing?
Hey, if you come here, let me know. I'll promote some dates if you want to come to Saskabush.
Man, that's so much driving. It's so much driving. I'm old and tired, man.
Well, maybe what we got to do is get you in Alberta with a stop in Saskatchewan, so makes it worth your while.
We are talking about that, aren't we, Jason?
Maybe we'll see what happens in August.
All right,
maybe.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, buddy. Take care. That's awesome. I love when he shows up. Did you hear the music he played? He played us a live "Bury Me with My Boots On."
No, I love his music though. I've been listening to his stuff a lot lately. It's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I put it on repeat now. Not much else to put on other than Greg's stuff is great. And I was going to ask the chat, did you guys like that? Did you guys like the live music there? Because that's what I just heard from Steve Hansen. He says he's going to go do it live. He actually quoted, it's so awesome. He's listening to this and chatting with me on Twitter. He goes, in the words of Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah.
So he's going to do it live next week. Thank you there, Steve. That's awesome.
What you were saying before about like there's not a whole lot of Canadian artists that really offer like a dissident voice. He's Canadian, but he doesn't live here and he doesn't touch upon lots of the Canadian politics. But Tom MacDonald is a really great Canadian artist talking about lots of this stuff, and his lyrics are good, his music videos are good, like all that stuff. So check out Tom's stuff. It's great.
Oh, we have so Tom, maybe next year, Alberta. That's all I can say right now.
That'd be cool.
Yep, that's all I can say right now. This year, Greg. Next year, maybe Tom. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, go on. So how's Saskatchewan? Are you guys smartening up around your kids? What's going on out there, bud?
Yeah, nothing hitting the headlines this week pertaining to the Soji stuff, but we do have 3 by-elections that have actually now been announced. So we're going to have 3 by-elections. 2 of them are in the northern part of Regina, and then the other one is on the kind of like the west side of Regina into like some rural communities, kind of Moose Jaw. It's called the riding is called Moose Jaw, Lumsden Morse, and it kind of cuts right around Moose Jaw and heads towards Swift Current out that way. So the stuff that we've been talking about is very prevalent as far as like issues that are going on there. I know the parties are really pushing against lots of it and using it as a big talking point. So it's been people like us that have been, pushing and saying, this stuff is wrong, that has actually been having some political sway and making people change their tune. I don't think the SAS party will personally, but that's just that's just kind of the way that it goes. They have the power right now. They're not really motivated to change, and these by-elections aren't going to flip any sway of power. So the 2 city ones, it's a toss-up. It was a tight race between the NDP and the SAS party. So that would be like there are conservatives, if you want to look at it that way. Right. It was very close. I think within like five points in each of those ridings. So it could go either way. You could get more. They could remain SAS party, or they could flip to the NDP. It would not surprise me if those 2 ridings flip. But the one Lumsden Morse, which happens to be my riding. We have the Sask parties put forward Blaine McLeod, the NDP, Caitlin Stadnick, Buffalo Party, Les Gilman, Sask United, John Hromick. We also have a new party. Well, not a new party. So our Liberal Party got so fed up with being Liberals because of their association with Justin Trudeau, they actually changed their name. So they changed their name to, yeah. So they changed it to the Saskatchewan Progress Party, which I put a joke out there on Twitter, said they dropped the IVE off of their name. It should be the Saskatchewan Progressive Party. But so I would really doubt that they're going to even bother with running in Lumsden Morse, but I think they're probably going to put 3 candidates to the 2 in Regina. So I don't think the Sask United or the Buffalo Party should even bother with the urban ridings. It's not even worth the money to be able to even put a name in there. But Lumsden Morse is going to be a slugfest. The Buffalo Party last time, same candidate, so Les is rerunning. Got just shy of 6%, so I could see his numbers being bumped up. Sask United is going to be in there as well. There was a Green Party candidate last time. I'm not sure if they're going to put someone forward, but it's going to be a fight, and it's a very conservative riding. Lots of farmers, and I think a lot of people that are fed up because it pretty much pushes. It starts in Lumsden and heads all the way west to about that Swift Current area. So lots of the people that are kind of seeing lots of the headlines that have happened is just simply as far as Soji. They're probably going to be pretty upset and paying a lot of attention, and they're not going to be happy with what the Sask party is doing. They're going to know that the NDP only got 18% last time isn't going to be a viable solution. So it's really giving a good opportunity for the Buffalo Party and the Sask United to kind of make some ground there. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. That's the one I'm going to obviously have vested interest in that one. But yeah, the 2 Regina ones will be kind of, I feel, almost just like a waste of time for any conservatives or the alternative conservative parties to throw their hat in the ring there.
No, fair enough. Now, the thing I kind of grabbed onto was the Liberal Party changed their name because of the association with the federal Liberal Party. But by doing so, are they saying to the people, you're so stupid that the name change is all you need to know that we're different? Like,
Probably.
is that the message?
Probably. The whole name change doesn't really make sense other than the fact that they understand that the branding that Justin Trudeau is putting forward as far as any type of liberal, that liberal branding is just a waste of people's time. They're not going to vote for that party just purely for that reason. So do I think that they're putting lipstick on a pig and calling it something different? Yeah, like that's basically what it's going to be. Will it fool people? I don't think so. And again, like maybe in the urban ridings, but I think that this is actually probably be like kind of a difficult thing for the newer parties to be able to actually kind of get some traction is you don't have that brand recognition. We know that these provincial parties for the NDP and more and even the Liberal Party as well are basically satellite parties. They obey Ottawa, right? And that was probably true for the Sask party as well. The connections between them and the federal conservatives go hand in hand. So without that strong branding to back them up, it does kind of hurt the new entries just as far as that brand recognition. You can have someone that votes federally NDP and they're pretty much going to match that provincially. So
usually, yeah,
that's usually the way that it goes. I don't know why someone would be motivated to vote kind of counter to their beliefs on in one jurisdiction, not the other. So but yeah, I think that as far as that goes, the Lumsden Morse riding is going to be a dogfight. I would hazard a guess to say that it'll probably stay with the Sask party, but I would be really eager to see both the Buffalo Party and Sask United kind of chip away at that. We're not going to have any vote split arguments here within the riding, just because the parties are so vastly different. You have the Separatist Party of the Buffalo Party, and then you basically have the conservative light being the Sask United, and then you have like the establishment conservatives and then the commie NDPs. So with those 4 all of them are offering something different, and so I don't think that the NDP will kind of gain any ground. If anything, I would say they'll lose from their 18%. I could see Buffalo Party doubling, if not more. So there's going to be no vote split. And even if there was people saying that between the Sask United and the Buffalo Party, if you combine the votes, maybe they could have forced one of them out. But again, you can't guarantee that you're going to get the other party's votes. I'm sure, like, if Buffalo Party didn't exist, I'm not voting, right? So
Right.
the Sask United is not getting my vote either way. So vote split argument is just silly.
Will any of this shake up Mo's cabinet at all? Like, is there going to be any impact or effects on his cabinet, or just kind of all lower level stuff?
So there's 61 ridings in Saskatchewan, and I can't remember how many. It's a lot. Like, the Sask Party pretty much has a super majority.
Right, but none of the people running the by-election would be part of his cabinet right now.
That I don't know. Like, one of the people in Regina, he passed away, and then I think the other two people resigned. And we had a by-election that Mark Friesen ran up in Saskatoon back in November. So, but yeah, like, it's not going to affect anything. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, vote for the anti-establishment parties. It's your best opportunity. You have lower voter turnout. You have fresh candidates. You have no incumbents, which usually, I forget the statistics behind it, but incumbents usually win, right?
Typically.
So it's a very good opportunity to get someone else in there. I really would urge people, if I'm, if I'm batting for the home team, vote Buffalo Party. Like I said, the Sask United is just conservative light, establishment light. They talk big game. They have no policies whatsoever. Their candidate is literally on Twitter saying, here's a big problem, and what's the solution? They got nothing. If you look at the Buffalo Party, they're saying, here's what we need to do to get Saskatchewan back on track. Here's what we want to do. Here's our policies. Whether it's anti-SOGI, it's pro-sovereignty, it's redoing healthcare. Whereas the Sask United, they're just saying, here's a problem, but not offering any solutions. And then it's establishment with what you're getting with the Sask Party and the NDP. You're going to know it's just whatever Jagmeet wants.
Right. Now, are any of the alt parties with no seats right now, are they putting all their eggs into one basket? Are they backing one good candidate, or are they spreading out on all the by-elections?
So the Buffalo Party did a really good run. They ran in 17 ridings and got over 5% of the popular vote. Which was huge because they were only a party for about 6 months at that point in time. Yeah, so they did extremely well, and they actually came in second place in 5 of those 17 ridings. So by all intents and purposes, it dwarfs what the PPC has done, even all of their elections combined. So this was an incredible showing for the Buffalo Party in when was that, 2020. So they unfortunately didn't get a seat. Now, Sask United is a party that's popped up within the last year, but they had someone who left the Sask Party who still has their seat. So it's a different dynamic because they already have a voice in our parliament here in Saskatchewan. Okay. They had, and that person's the party leader and stuff. So it's a little bit different scenario as far as that goes. But I really think that when we look at what Saskatchewan needs, it needs that big thread of separation, because there's no big stick from anything that any other party's offering as far as saying that we need something different. We need to renegotiate things with Ottawa. Scott Moe can stand there and say we're not going to agree with the climate things or the gun things or whatever Trudeau's wanting, but he's really just offering more words. As far as the gun legislation goes, he basically put a gun control bill that was unanimously supported by the NDP, because the NDP is banking on it getting power within the next decade here and wants to be able to use the gun control that is in that bill to be able to confiscate guns, right? Basically their workaround was saying that they're not going to, you have to be able to do a gun grab, you have to have a license issued by the province of Saskatchewan. Well, guess what? If the NDP gets in, they're going to issue those licenses and they're going to take your guns. So the Sask Party just shot themselves in the foot there. It's very silly legislation. yeah, absolutely. And then when it's, Scott Moe saying, well, we're not going to be, same thing as Danielle Smith, we're not going to play Ottawa's game. We're not going to abide by anything for 2030, but 2050 is okay. We'll be carbon neutral by 2050.
Why do they keep agreeing with 2050? All of them.
It's not just that, is they'll capitulate to whatever the left wants. They'll say, we want this, And then they'll say, well, we'll counter with that. And then both sides are happy because they both got the win. The one side doesn't do it immediately, and the other side still gets the legislation that they want. If you pander to the left, you will always lose. And that's basically conservatism. Conservatism right now in Canada is conservatives boxing the left on a treadmill that's only heading one direction. We're not able to win as the more that conservatives at any level are apologizing to the woke progressive types, you've already lost. The second you admit fault to them, they own you. So I think we really need people that are going to step in, and that's what the Buffalo Party is. And the Sask United won't offer anything extreme enough, if you want to look at it that way, to actually stand up to any of these things. Again, it's all just lip service. But if you look at what the Buffalo Party is they signed on to the True North Declaration, which was put forth by Brenton Froelich, who I had on my show. And when we're looking at something to be able to actually turn the tides, it's like, let's rewrite our charter. Let's get some things that are in there completely out. Section 1 and Section 33, the notwithstanding clause, get that out of there. We don't need it, right? So that is right in the Buffalo Party's policies to be able to enact and they want to rewrite Saskatchewan's constitution to completely bypass lots of the stuff that is in our current charter to be able to protect Saskatchewan from that. No other party has that, so that's a long-winded rant of what's kind of going on politically here, just because August 10th, lots of them there's 3 ridings that are going to go to the polls. And like I said, the 2 city ones are kind of irrelevant to me. But when we're looking at Lumsden Morse, lots of rural, lots of farmers, it's a very important riding. And I think it'll be a slugfest.
That's kind of cool. I think we need to reach out to Aaron Gunn or even Matt Walsh. There needs to be a documentary. What is a conservative? And try and actually answer that question. Like, what does that word mean now in Canada? It's just as fluid as woman in the States. What does conservative mean anymore? And
as an anarchist, if someone calls me a conservative, it's almost as big of an insult as calling me a liberal. But but I mean, I'm as conservative as I need to, and I'm usually just lumped in. I'm guilty by association, because it's like, if you look at the people that are saying lots of the right things, it would be these people that are typically view themselves as conservative, even though they might not actually vote for things that are conservative. But that's kind of the crowd that I get lumped in, because it's like the other side is wanting to castrate children and abort them, and then the other side is saying, no, we shouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to stand over by these guys, even though I actually don't agree with them on a whole lot. But it's like, when you start adding things up, I'm like, I'm not hanging out with these guys. Yeah, welcome to tribal when you have 2 parties to pick from. It's a lesser of 2 evils, but there's one that absolutely is far less evil than the other one. So, but it would be great if we stop drifting towards the other side in policies and culture and other things. Now, I'm doing something different this week, Zach. I'm going to be playing my speech from Saturday instead of doing some live stuff here. Now, you watched that. I did.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was really good. And like you said, it wasn't something that you had like planned out or anything, which I think is even better, because the stuff that you were hitting on was fantastic. Just and it does help that you've been talking about this stuff for like 20 some days now. The
good stuff. We're on day 19 is tomorrow, so 18 days. Yeah, so like you've been covering it for quite a while here. So you're quite well versed on it. But I thought like the stuff that you were talking about, not just pertaining to them, but like the status of what the political climate is here in Canada, and when we're seeing lots of the stuff just keep happening, it's really hard to be. I don't want to like bash people, but it's hard to be patriotic when you see your country kind of going to shit, and I think but what the message that you gave was a message of hope and saying we can do these things. We just have to start uniting and get behind the right people with the right mentality and stop playing this game, because that's what it is. And you see that people are getting railroaded. It's not just the Coots guys, it's some of the truckers, it's Jeremy McKenzie, it's it doesn't, you could stick your neck out and the government is just going to come down on you as hard as they can with the boot on your throat. So it's causing people to operate from a point of fear, not a point of courage. And I think that, the words that you had said, I think that is kind of one big takeaway, is like, there's things that can unite us as Canadians and as people and as neighbors. And I think that was something that I definitely took away from it, is there's people that are suffering and we need to find out a good way to help them. Yeah, especially the vaccine part. So the video I'm going to be playing is the edited for YouTube version. So there's a part in it where the vaccine information is not there, but you can find it on Rumble. You can find it. It has to do with Nova Scotia. It got us banned last time, so I'm not going to repeat that statement here. But yeah, so yeah, there's a piece of hope. There's a piece about injury. There's a piece about the coots. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and play that. Now I do have to apologize to people. The audio isn't the best. I've got some lessons to learn. We were asked basically last minute to go ahead and do this in the morning. So I wasn't prepped. I didn't have equipment, but we did what we could to capture it. So on that note, you're going to pass the baton of peace to me, and I'm going to go ahead and run this video.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much for the time, Jason. And you keep preaching the message of peace because it's important and it's something that we all can unite behind.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Zach. All right, folks, so I'm going to play a video. I know this is not live, but I want to play this video for you because it was quite relevant to Alberta politics this week. And I think we may have gotten Rebel's attention. You'll understand in this video, there's a part about Rebel and money. And I'm actually physically looking at updates of that stuff as we speak. Looks like Rebel is getting the pressure's getting to them. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start this video. It's about 24 minutes or so. So we'll run a little bit long, but I think it's worth it. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, turn up your volume because the volume is low. I'll turn it up as high as I can, but you may have to turn it up and I'll mute myself during it. So I hope you enjoy it. I started to follow the POEC event because something really was fishy with what's going on. Did you guys pay attention to that one? Did you see these testimonies? Did you see what they have to say? They said everything was hinging on our guns here in Coutts. If you actually read that report that Rouleau put together, he blamed it all on the guns and everything that was in secret, which they call in camera. Now we have to investigate what happened here in Coutts. So about 4 weeks ago, I reached out to Twitter and I said, hey, can you guys help me get information? I want to talk to these people. I've been interviewing people like Randy Hilliard and Maxime Bernier and doing a bunch of things like that to find out politically what's going on. But I need to find out what's going on here in Alberta. Immediately, somebody reached out to me and said, hey, contact Granny. So I did. Sorry, when I contacted her, I really didn't know. I was like most people here. We heard about the story, it happened, the events happened, but I didn't know. I didn't know that they were still locked up, and I didn't know that they weren't getting bail. So she talked to me for about an hour and took me through the whole story. At that time, it was 498 days. Without hugging their kids, kissing their wife, being a family man. So immediately I said to her, look, Granny, I have this morning show. I just get together with people for coffee. We talk to people coast to coast. And it's fun, it's interesting, but I want to get this word out. We need to spotlight this. We need to have people understand they're still in remand. And so Granny said, absolutely, let's do something. I said, all right, let's change my show to the Coutts 4. So June 26th, we started our first episode. We've now done 15 episodes. We had Rick, the police officer from Edmonton. You guys know who he is? Rick Abbott. He is the sergeant. He came down to Milk River to support the group and just tell them to protest peacefully. Don't do anything wrong. Just protest peacefully. You're doing the wrong thing. And for that, he was fired. He was fired. So I had him on the show, and he didn't know either. He's a police officer. He took us through the Edmonton police story, which was they were chastising the officers there. If you didn't get the vaccine, you had to eat lunch in the shame room. I want you guys to understand, this is the police force. They had a room called the shame room. This was to shame unvaccinated police officers. So can you imagine the mentality of these police officers as they go to work and they have a shame room, and then they have to go out to the public and deal with us? I don't understand why they did that, but he explained to us how 99% of people are vaccinated, and if you weren't, you had to eat away from your colleagues. You can sit in the car with them without a mask. You can go to events. You can deal with the criminals out there, but you couldn't eat with them. So I said to Rick, look, we need to do something about these guys. We need to bring some attention to it. And if you haven't seen the show yet, I have a gentleman named Donald Best on. He's a 15-year Toronto police officer, corruption investigator. And immediately when he first heard about the story, he said, look, if they did it, throw away the key. He said, I understand, Donald, but let's take a look at this evidence that they gave us. And after about 5 days, Donald realized after his investigation, he called some people, he looked at all the articles out there. He is convinced, just like the rest of us, these are political prisoners. What is a political prisoner? Is it somebody that's just in jail? No, because all of our laws come from political movement and political people. The legislators are political. The statutes are political. So that's not what it means. It means when, for political reasons, you're locked away. Well, what's the political reason for these four gentlemen? Well, Trudeau executed the Emergencies Act, and he needed justification for that. It was our last and final act for all events in the major emergencies. He needed to have something. So he blamed our boys. Are you guys aware that the press said they were traveling together with this cache of guns? There's an RCMP officer who came out on February 14th and explained it all to us, how they captured this separate group. But if you actually look at it, none of them were arrested together. Chris Lysak was arrested at 9 p.m., February 13th, walking the crowd in Coots. He made a comment to an officer about how nice his gun was and how jealous he was. That apparently is uttering a threat. So they arrested him. 45 minutes later, Chris Carbert, Chris was not there. Sorry, this was Tony. Tony was still in the crowd. 45 minutes later, they picked him up. Keep in mind, they told the entire country these guys were together conspiring to commit murder against RCMP officers. But Chris Lysak was arrested. Tony knew about it. What did Tony do? Did he run? Did he go get the group together? Did he go and collect this cache of guns? No, he walked around and continued to support the group. Why? Because he didn't do anything wrong. So Tony got picked up. A couple hours later, about 2 or 12:30 in the morning, while sleeping, Chris Carbert was picked up in the trailer with the guns. So this big group who was out to attack the RCMP officers were walking around without the weapons at the Coots event, 2 of them. Another guy was sleeping with the weapons because he was sick. Chris Carbert knew that Chris Lysak and Tony were arrested. Somebody told him. Again, did he run? Did he go and try and hide? Did he go and try and rescue his fellow comrades? Nothing like that. He went to sleep. Why? Because he's an innocent man. The very next day, on his way to work, Jerry got picked up. Nowhere near Coots, by the way, north of Calgary. So all 4 of these men were picked up at separate times, sometimes hours apart. But that very day, the RCMP officers came out and said, listen, we caught this group together, separate from the Coots protest, with a cache of guns. And then he showed us that picture. 15 weapons, vests, bear spray, buckshot, bird shot. Those are hunting weapons, folks. And there was one special gun there. Very, very interesting looking gun. We call it gun number 8. If you're in the conspiracy world, you know about building 7. Well, this is gun number 8. Because gun number 8 is very special and very interesting. It's not available to the general public. It's one of those banned, restricted, very nasty weapons that we all should be worried about. But it's got a very interesting paint job on it. And that paint job looks an awful lot like the recruitment video that the RCMP has. If you pay very close attention, right to the scope, to the trigger, the butt, the barrel, this is RCMP issued weapons, folks. Maybe they just needed a spot for that weapon on that photo. Who knows? But that photo had 15 weapons on it. 6 of them are attributed to the gentlemen that are in jail or in remand right now. And by the way, only one of those weapons, the handgun, was a restricted weapon. The rest are not. You can shoot gophers with that, fox, coyotes. In fact, I spoke to Chris Lysak. That's exactly what he was planning to do with his. I had an interesting conversation with Chris just a couple days ago. You guys have to talk to him. The press wants you to believe that this man orchestrated and was ready to take down officers in the most violent way. But I spoke to him for 40 minutes, 2 phone calls, because they tell you 1 minute left. It's exactly 20 minutes. So we had to do it twice. And every single time I talked to him about something about what were you doing, what were you planning, not about the event, but just about life. Every single one of his questions went back to one person, to 2 people, his daughters. This is a large man, physically strong, If you haven't seen him, he's tall. He broke down. And so he should. He loves his children. The entire conversation, every single time I said, hey, do you go fishing? Yes, with my children. What do you like to do in your spare time? I like to do it with my children. What are you going to do when you come out? I'm going to grab my 15-year-old daughter now. She's 15. Keep in mind, 2 birthdays he hasn't had with her. So I'm going to throw her on my hip like I always did. She fits perfectly right there. And I'm going to take her to the mountains and we're going to get away. And Chris Carbon, I spoke to him for 20 minutes. You want to know what this gentleman told me at the end? He wants to help other people in the remand system. What does this mean to you and me? This is a gentleman who actually believes that we can repair the system that is against him. This is not the wiring of a man who is going to try and take down a government through violence. 517 days he's been in there, and he still wants to help repair the system. That is not a terrorist. He fell asleep with the guns. He knew the other 2 were arrested. Chris Isaac's his best friend. Barely knew Tony, doesn't really know Jerry, but Chris he knew. Chris was the first one picked up, 9 p.m. Listen, folks, I watched every minute of the POEC. I was there in the building when Freeland and Trudeau testified. I was there when Trudeau told the whole country. I didn't call them names. Do you guys remember that little soundbite that we got? What do you think about that? Did he call you names? Yeah. What were they? Bad. Were they divisive? Did they unify us? He thought they would divide us. I think it unified us. I'm French. You can call me whatever you want. Fold this, fold that. Give it to me. I'm more unified than ever because we have to. There's some powers out there, evil or otherwise. If you believe in God like I do, it's evil. But there's a power out there that's trying to divide us all the way to the point where we attack each other. You don't have to spend more than 20 minutes interviewing people in Freedom Convoy to understand there's fractures and division even inside there. There's some odd characters that pop around and cause trouble. They're everywhere, guys. Is it evil? Is it the government? Is it something bigger? I don't know. I don't know. I'm an evidence guy. I got to see the evidence first. But what I do know is it makes me very uncomfortable with some of these people, the way they talk. They're trying to rally us up, trying to break the men out. Anybody that says that, folks, Fed, not on our side. The system's not perfect, but we can certainly still use it. We have some room left. We have some time left. And time is absolutely on our side here, folks. The only thing that is the conspiracy theory and the truth, the only thing that separates the 2 of those, is about 9 to 12 months. So time is on our side. And we have to stick together for these gentlemen. Now look, there are four guys that are away from their family. They're very upset about it, very confused. They've all had the same thought that I think we would have if we got picked up innocently. The system will fix itself. I'm innocent. They can't prove anything. I think I'll get out of here in 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah, well, when things are in camera and judges make decisions off the record behind the doors and you can't see them and they're sealed, well, then anything's possible because you can say anything. Did you know that on July 25th, they're going to be back in court? 26, 27, 29, Lethbridge Courthouse. I'll be there. I'll be sitting there right in the front row, collecting that information for you all, and bring it back to you. Because we need to know what is going on. But let me give you some hope on this one. June 29th was the last court date. June 29th, Steve Johnson was not there. You don't know who he is. He's a lead Crown attorney. He was not there, and neither was his sidekick. Who was there was a third person from the Crown's office, very confused and had no idea why they were there and what was going on. Folks, I'm going to give you some hope. The Crown screwed up. I can tell you that. They disclosed stuff they weren't supposed to or didn't want to. I'm not going to say supposed to because disclosure is supposed to be all the truth, but I'm sure they didn't want to. There was a section of those documents that were originally redacted, but the Crown accidentally gave the defense an unredacted version. What ended up happening was that the defense immediately saw the value in that. Put together a little package, we call it the sealed envelope, because it's sealed, we can't see it, and we don't know the contents of it. But I can tell you the contents of it created the conditions within the court that Steve Johnson was no longer welcome. The lead crown was no longer welcome. The reason? Because witnesses and defendants cannot be in the court during a trial. He's now being referred to as a witness, possible defendant. The RCMP was told to lawyer up if they want to see that sealed envelope. And the Law Society of Alberta is involved. They get involved in misconduct, gross misconduct for a professional that holds a license of lawyer. I can't tell you what it means. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I'll be there to find out. But I can tell you right now, the boys are excited. Let's call them men. Some men are excited. So on July 25th, we're going to find out, does that judge have a conscience? Do you have some morals? Is he really interested in justice? Because at this time, we do not have a justice system. We have a legal system. Let me explain to you the difference in those two. A legal system is a system that follows the laws created by man and woman. So we sit down and we write these laws, we debate these laws, we put them down to statutes, regulations, ordinance, bylaws, and then we try to follow them. A justice system is built on top of a legal system, but it also has morals, case by case. We take a look. I can tell you right now, Alberta doesn't have a justice system. We have a legal system. And in the legal system, people can do things that you would presume is correct, but you get away with it. For example, you can lie on an affidavit for an information to inform. What are these? These are the things used for warrants. What warrant are we talking about? The one for February 13th, 10 o'clock p.m. Somebody swore, somebody lied. These gentlemen are not what the press says. I also want to warn you guys, the media, as you know, main state media, don't trust it. That's an easy one. I'm an independent journalist, so I get to reach out to all of them. So that includes Rebel, True North, Western Standard. In fact, if you go check out my Yellowhead Yacht Club, I interviewed Corey Morgan from the Western Standard. I interviewed Andrew Lawton from True North. Can't get Ezra though. He won't talk to me. Because he will not explain to me where that trucker lawyer money went and why our gentlemen have no pennies of that. I spoke to Bridget Belton, who also informed me many truckers from the actual convoy are unrepresented. Truckerlawyer.ca was a website that was up for quite some time. It was pushed everywhere. I know I donated. Many of you probably did too. I just want you to all be clear. Not a dime went to the Coots boys, men, and as many truckers who actually sat and got tickets in Ottawa, they're still unrepresented. Their only voice right now is Bridget Belton. Now I understand there's a lot of fracture in the movement. Bridget, BJ, Tom, Keith, I can go on. But the good news is we're still united. We're still pushing forward. We're in top gear going forward, Hong Kong, folks. There's something coming. I can't announce it, but there's something coming. Everybody's feeling like this is another time to stand up. Now, I also want to give you some more hope. I've done the math. I've carried the two. I've plus the one. If the coup stuff fails, folks, if it's proven that it is not real, the justification for the EA falls too. There were no border crossings blocked February 14th. If you watch the POEC, everything was cleared February 12th. If you pay really close attention, the men were charged with conspiracy to commit murder of an RCMP officers at 4:30 p.m. February 14th, Mountain Standard Time. That makes it 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which puts those charges after the evocation of the EA. It may just be a couple hours, it may be a big deal, but wait a minute. It takes some time to invoke an EA. I hope you guys know that. Government doesn't move that fast. February 12th was when they first started kicking it around officially in cabinet. They were talking about it before the first truck rolled into Ottawa, just so you know. There's comments from our government that says this is our Jan 6 before a single truck reached downtown Ottawa. Look, this is a big world, and we're pretty focused on our little patch of land here, God's country. But this world has some motives and agendas. I think you guys should start paying attention to them. 2021 came and gone, but 2030, they seem to think is another one. You guys should be paying attention to some of this. I'm doing my best to reach out, interview, and bring the information to you. I see a familiar face in the crowd right now, Dr. William Mackis. You guys don't know who he is, you're gonna find out who he is. But he's our hero. He's been fighting Alberta Health Services before COVID. He's been fighting for the truth because it's easy for him to see it. He didn't go through this indoctrination that some of the others went through. He's a hero. I had the pleasure of interviewing him. Couldn't put it on YouTube. At that time, I was one of those suspended. Why? Because we had Vaccine Truth on. What truth? Government. Just mentioning that statement out of the government of Nova Scotia got me banned for a week. Next time it's 2. Independent media is the new media, folks, because we don't have masters, we don't report to anybody, and we don't have to take a paycheck. Back to alt media, I spoke to them and I said, hey, listen, behind the scenes, tell me what's up. Share me with what you've got. Can you help me out? Again, I want to emphasize, I have contacts at Rebel. I have contacts at Western Standard and True North. Somebody told me I won't give you gender or company. We'll give them some slack here. But this person told me, I know one of them personally. You couldn't have done that. But I can't help you. I will support you privately. You should continue on this journey, but I can't help you publicly. This is alt media, folks. So when we're all saying things like main state media is bought off by Trudeau, alt isn't, but they're still acting really funky. All right, folks. Thank you very much to Chris for the microphone check. Yeah, we're going to drop that now. At this point, we're getting a bad connection on that video, but you can catch the rest of it on YouTube. Catch it on Rumble if you want the full truth, because there's some of it had to be censored for Rumble. But yeah, now we're ready for BC, and we got both of them here. We got Chris. Welcome, Chris. And we have Trevor. Welcome, Trevor. I think you're muted there, Chris. And hello, Trevor. Nice to meet you, man.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Just trying to figure out why I got no camera here.
Yeah, no camera. So what you may want to do is in the settings at the bottom, go to a video, and then there'll be a drop down for different options there.
Oh,
we'll let you work on. Yeah, we'll let you work on that for a bit. I'll go to Chris first here, so I'll go ahead and mute you. And hey, Chris, how you doing, bud?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, look at that. We got Trevor's video. So good. We have your video there, Trevor. That's awesome. Hey, Chris, well, you got some better light, and it sounds like you maybe have another microphone there, or do you set something up there?
I'm just moving things around and taking care of the light problem, and didn't get my posters and stuff up today. I'm trying to create a vibe. Lava lamp's on its way, so we'll see.
Absolutely. And do what I did, because we actually have a sawmill on the property, so we actually cut our own wood. This came from our trees. Do something like that. It doesn't get more grassroots than cutting down trees to make shelves for your books.
There you go. That's what you need.
Yeah. Well, good to meet you, or good to see you again, Chris. I know you quite well, and I'll be saying good to meet Trevor in a second here. I was just playing my speech from Saturday. It's my first speech I've ever done. It was getting up there, just winging it. But did you catch that speech prior to me playing it just now?
Me? Yeah, I did. It's fantastic. Okay. You could see the nerves a little bit at the beginning, but you're like not for long, like 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute. But then you got on a roll. Well done, man. Covered everything, and you could tell the authenticity there. And yeah, just keep doing it, man. Love it.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing this show, is to practice speaking, to practice public speaking, to know the subject matter, to know it well enough to speak about it. So this is why I do this show, is in order to practice for that kind of thing. So I'm happy that it seems like it might be working for me. So hopefully people out there want to hear some more speeches, and I'll do that, and we'll get out there. Hello, Trevor. Really nice to meet you, bud. Yeah, we got your video. We can see your awesome flag back there. Some places in Canada, that's a terrorist flag, but not over here. We love that flag. How you doing, man? And you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. My name is Trevor Heshka, out in Vancouver Island in BC. I'm not too far from Chris here. Hey, Chris. Yeah, nice to meet you. A lot of respect for Chris there. Really appreciate it. Certainly knows a lot about the legislation process in BC. So it's quite great. I'd like to talk a bit about the port situation here in BC. I think that's really getting underplayed in our media, and not enough people are talking about. There's quite a huge impact.
Please go right into it. Yeah.
For most of the people in really Western Canada, because that's where our ports ship a lot of stuff too. The Vancouver port alone is 6 times larger in size than any port in Canada. So this is quite a big impact. Basically, there's a international longshore and warehouse union, and they went on strike at the beginning of this month for 13 days. And what that has caused is a lot of backlogs in our ships and stuff. And I'm right in Nanaimo, and we got ships outside waiting to get into Vancouver because they're stuck there, right? So it's going to be a lot of consequences from the strike already. We've got railways waiting. We've got ships that are already in the terminals in Vancouver. There's like, I don't know, more than a dozen terminals in Vancouver. So these ships are basically just parked there waiting for this labor dispute to end here. And yeah, we'll see a lot of impacts from that. This is going to take months for our system to catch up here because of all the backlogs, right? They got fruits and vegetables on these ships that are rotting, and yeah, we'll just see quite a backlog there. From what I understand, the union was asking for an 11% raise the first year, 6% the second year. That changed the negotiation process to 9.5%. They also want a $2 an hour pension plan added. There's quite a lot to it. So I don't know the full details of what the mediator from the federal government, it's actually an independent body. It's assigned by the federal government, paid for by the federal government, but independent, right? And they made a decision on the back to work process. And a few days later, the union came out. Union heads just decided on themselves. There was no vote in the union itself that they were going back to work. So this morning I got up and I found out that they're calling this back to, or the union still going back on strike. They went back on strike yesterday. I missed the part there. And so the Minister of Labor, Seamus O'Regan, had said this morning that the body that, sorry, I gotta look at the name here because I keep forgetting what they're called. Canadian Industrial Relations Board. They're the ones that made the order to go back to work. So a few days later, the union rejected this order from the mediator. And so basically nobody went back to work. And yeah, we're basically supposed to, under law, they're supposed to give 72 hours. So now that the labor minister has said that this is illegal, the union has come back and given the proper 72-hour notice on strike. So because of labor laws and needing to give people 72 hours before they're scheduled for work, nobody actually went to work. So right now at the Port of Vancouver, I believe it's last year they had about $3 billion, just over $3 billion went through the Vancouver port alone, right? So this is a huge impact that it's having on, or it's going to have on our prices. Because that's eventually what it's going to come down to. These ships that are sitting in the port waiting, they're not going to want to pay all the staff that are just sitting around doing nothing and not get their money back, right? So we're basically back at square one here, and the challenge for us might be in getting back to work legislation, because Parliament is out till September. If we don't get something through the Canadian Industrial Relations Board or from the Minister of Labor himself, Seamus O'Regan, this could turn into a real nasty problem. And it's not just going to affect BC. There's a lot of stuff that comes for people in Alberta, Saskatchewan, probably further into the country and further north, right? So, yeah.
Have we seen any interruptions yet on supplies and logistics? Are we seeing any of those interruptions across Canada yet?
Oh, absolutely, Chris. Basically, there is federal law that protects grain from being imported and exported in Canada. So a labor strike won't affect that. So it's not the entire like 3.5 billion sort of thing that gets put at risk here, because the import of grain is still happening, but that's just very minimal activity coming through the ports at this time. And it's pretty much guaranteed to increase our prices, because all these companies that are affected along the line, they're not going to take a cut in what they're making, because there's a union strike going on here. So, yeah, I really wanted to say that. See the time here. These have been going really quick. Basically, started watching.
And of course,
I started watching when the Maritimes came on, and basically everyone's trying to get all their stuff in, right?
Yep, yeah. You'll get used to it. Yeah, you get about 10 minutes, because Chris has 10 as well.
Yeah. I think I'm about at my limit here, but I'll end in saying, yeah, super great guests. I've heard of Greg Arcade before, but I'm certainly going to look up his music. That was really cool. And just, Maggie and I think it's Beth Ann. Just super great guests there. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Chris as well here. So I'll pass the mic on over to you guys there.
Absolutely. And thanks for that breakdown. The ports are very important. And of course, they can harm us if they're artificially closing ports or causing problems with our supply chain. Hey, Chris, you've been following this too, and you got some other stuff for us in BC?
Can I use a bit of my time to ask Trevor if is he affected directly? Does he work within this? Is he part of the union or anything like that?
No direct contact whatsoever. Just interested in it. We got some sensitive areas in our coast around it, Nanaimo here, and just seeing these ships in there. Like, I'm by no means a climate alarmist whatsoever, but I care about our environment, right? So, just some of our fisheries that are going to be affected by this, right? And the pricing, right? I'm just.
And who runs the ports? We've been asked who runs the ports.
Well, there's several ports along the BC coast. They're all independent
private
ports. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so
all
private.
The union is for every single port on BC's coast. So this affects not just the Vancouver port, which is the largest in Canada, but these much smaller ports as well. That they mostly bring in stuff for our energy industry, right? Like there's a lot of stuff coming for LNG and stuff that unfortunately we're not producing in Canada. We're, for whatever reason, buying it overseas, right? I guess the costs are cheaper there. Which,
we know the reasons. They're not logical, economical, and they're not reasonable. We know the reasons.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Chris.
Yeah,
thanks for the answer. That's good. And I don't mind if we just go back and forth and continue on it.
You can do, yeah.
It's a very important topic, and I'm keeping an eye on it. That and just what the government's up to as far as what their plan is for the vaccine. Still, right? Am I allowed to say that word on here?
You can say the vaccine. You just can't deny it. That it's 100% effective, right? It saves every life out there.
100%, and I know where every clinic is across the province. It's fantastic to see that it's still going on. I couldn't be peachier about the entire thing.
Now you're safe. We're good.
We're good. Okay, so I got that off my chest. No, I think that BC is not really an anomaly, but we are in a bit of a different. It feels like we're in a bit of a different world here with how things are being done in regards to maintaining narratives in certain direction. And so when I see what's going on with the ports there, it kind of adds to everything we're seeing. All the numbers we see, 2.8% inflation, that's ridiculous. I've been keeping track of, like, I go to every different store and I've got my staples as far as my gauge for what inflation rates are at. And so when you have things like this for supply chain disruption, after having years of supply chain disruption, year and a half, 2 years supply chain, they're probably still trying to catch up from then. And the amount of waste is going to send costs, like Trevor was saying, is going to send it sky high. And so, I think that it's, I don't want to come on here every week or whatever and kind of be a downer. I'm in such a vibe now that I'm just focused solely on moving forward and trying to find positive things. So I might start doing that a little bit more as far as covering what people are working on and what, how to encourage people to get involved. But, do you have in your mind, Trevor, do you think, do you have a timeline, that in your mind that you think this might play out, or is it just totally unpredictable right now?
I really couldn't say. It all depends on the Canadian Industrial Relations Board and the Ministry of Labor. Right? There's some say from the BC Mariners Association, I believe it's called. It might be a little wrong in the name there. However, they're the ones that represent all the companies that do actually employ people in these ports along our coast here. But yeah, I really couldn't tell you. Hopefully sooner than later, right? In my mind, if we don't see something from the Minister of Labor, we do need some sort of back to work legislation, right? And let them work it out along the way. If they agree to get paid more or whatever, that could always be back paid, right? And I'm not under the impression that any of these people that work for the union are by any means really struggling in life, and if they are, it's probably because the interest rates have gone up and they've got a variable rate mortgage.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing you said that was interesting there. How much time we got? 4 minutes. One thing you said that was interesting there was that the union brass moved without any formal movement. I have some union background working with the hospital employees union. I used to be a chairperson and the shop steward and other things there. And if I was a union member and that occurred, that is not something that would be taken well by the members. And as we saw with the unions during the rollout of the thing, they didn't step up. They just stepped out of the way. And so we've seen a lot of betrayals along the way with the unions. And I do see some pros and cons. I'm not an anti-union guy, but at the same time, I've always said you're only as strong as your local leadership. And so when you have the top brass moving without the will of the people behind them, it just makes me wonder what the motives are, what the agendas are, and what the back channeling looks like on this. Because it seems to me, if you want to take a look at what's essential or not, I'm not a big fan of legislating people back to work either. I think if there's breakdown, you want to try, you have to have the right to protest, but at the same time, or strike, if it's going to have that kind of long-term impact, it just makes no sense. Outside of causing more chaos and pain for the people on the ground, when we're looking at what we're facing now in pretty much every sector, it seems to be the design as far as what they want to see happen. So I can't see them motivated to end this. I can see, I read Seamus O'Regan's response, I think, on the 12th. So I'm a little bit, you've updated me as far as where things are at on that. But the last one, I read it, it was so standard operating procedure, just putting it out, but I can see them hitting the send button and they really don't care, right? They're not going to be affected. They're going to be able to get all of their caviar and $71,000 limo rides in Iceland and stuff. They're not going to be affected by this. So it really just comes back to, again, we have to be more proactive in being able to source what we need locally and do what we can to get ahead of the game as far as making sure that we don't give them that power when it comes to food and other resources that we need. It's not like we want, we need to have them. So yeah, I do appreciate that you brought me up to speed this week. So thank you for that.
And also, Chris, I just want to highlight your Twitter spaces and the work you're doing there. Do you want to let people know when your next one is and what you're doing with those?
Sure. It's yesterday was great. I'm still kind of in the groove as far as finding a community and where
that will never change. You're always going to be trying to iron that out.
Yeah, and so I found we had a really good space yesterday. I was asked to co-host with Salty Fringe Canadian. I'm sure many of you are familiar with her online. And that space was what I've been trying to create, and it just happened so organically last night. We had over 200 people in there, and it was just an amazing, powerful, beautiful, healing experience. And so I'm looking at right now to doing more of one tomorrow on kind of a follow-up of what, as far as event organizing and just kind of rallying point to see what we can do this week. And I'm going to be switching starting next week. It'll be my space will be Sunday night, and then during the week I'm going to try and co-host with as many people that are looking to do healing spaces, so I can just help out. Most of the time, I just I generate, like, help build the momentum, and then I'm quiet and let all the other hands go. But it's going well, and so if you want to find me, there will be one tomorrow. But if the healing one, we'll be looking at on Sundays, probably around 5 p.m. Pacific time, just to kind of end the week well and get things started for Monday, to kind of set the right tone for it. But I appreciate you giving me a chance to plug that, and I'll have more as far as the nailed down things for next week for sure.
Yeah. The reason why I brought it up is because we did an interview with Theo Fleury on Monday, and then we had a Twitter Spaces after. It was a good Twitter Spaces. No, it was a good one.
It wasn't recorded.
Yeah, well, you can watch the interview with Theo, because we even talk about creating circles for trauma and conversation and how community and coming together. Yeah, so we put that into effect right after the show. So that Twitter space was exactly what he was talking about there.
Yeah, and I love the way he was covering like that. If you haven't seen it, people in the audience, definitely go and check out that Fleury interview. It got a lot of play too. 3,000 people, I think, have seen it so far, if not more.
Well, that's one platform, but yeah, it's all over. It's doing well.
It's all over, yeah. And the way he speaks, his openness and honesty, and it's very, his ability to put himself in a vulnerable state, but show you the path in a way. His path's not the same as everyone else's, but very inspiring, very encouraging to see. And well done on that interview, man. I loved how you navigated that.
Cheers.
It's beautiful.
No, thank you. It was a tough, hard truth, right? That's why I titled it Hard Truth, because that's what he had for us. He had hard truth. But from that came a lot of healing. He emphasized that adult trauma is probably where we should be spending all our efforts right now, because from that, everything else fixes itself. You care more about your kids and yada, yada, yada. So Theo kind of focused on mental health and trauma. Awareness is a very important subject. And I agree with him on that one. And so I wanted to emphasize to you, Chris, thank you for your healthy spaces and stuff that you're doing there. And it's huge. And then Trevor. Yeah, and Trevor, thanks for reaching out. It was really nice to meet you. And we're definitely going to have you back again. And at some point in the future, we're going to do an interview with you. We'll work together on that one. Okay, bud?
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll talk about the trauma stuff there for sure. Great meeting you, Chris, and pass it on to our friends up north.
Yeah, you want to go ahead, Trevor, and pass on the baton of peace. And Melissa's the one that decided it was going to be peace this week. So go ahead and pass it to her.
Take care.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everyone. I'll join you back in the chat here, probably on Rumble. And go ahead, Melissa and George.
Thank you very much, Trevor and Chris. You guys take care. Hello, Melissa. How are you doing? And hey, George, how are you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear us okay?
You're very low, but I'll pump you up on my side, and we'll see how that goes. Go ahead.
Hello. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
That will work. Yeah, we got enough there. That will work.
I don't have a mic. So.
You sound fine, George. Yeah, you have a mic. We can hear you. Yep, we can hear you.
I'm here.
Yeah. Well, there we go, Melissa. You picked the theme this week, which was peace. So you reached out to me and you said, "Hey, what's the theme this week?" And I said, "Hey, why don't you tell me?" And then you picked peace. And here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up going with the opposite of peace, unfortunately, because of the news that I have. But that's why I was saying that we need peace more than ever. So,
absolutely. And we'll probably wrap it up with peace in the end. So we'll hear what's the problems, and then we'll see how we can find peace in that. So as you're going through this, if you could go ahead and tell us which territory you're going to be talking about, and then we'll switch the flags for you. So which one do we want to start with first?
Let's start with Yukon first.
Perfect.
I saw last week that you were talking about that clinic that shut down in Mayo temporarily.
Yep.
At least. I
think we
that
pulled up an article about that.
Yeah, they're going to open up again on the 20th, apparently.
Did they found staff? Because that was a lack of staff, I believe.
Okay, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what their solution was. But what I can connect with that is that there's this thing that the Yukon started. And it's called Putting People First. And it started in 2019, and it's for the healthcare in Yukon. And they basically have like these 70 items that they want to improve in healthcare here, and none of it's been really fixed in the last 4 years. Like since 2019, they just haven't gotten anywhere. And like some of the issues that they're facing right now is that people are having like nurses and doctors can't access people in hard to reach places. Obviously,
Okay,
everyone is
remote
so
location.
scattered out here, so remote, that it's really difficult to get care. And they were talking about like there's some racial discrimination, LGBTQ plus discrimination that they need to fix, and then there's also the lack of knowledge of languages. So there's quite a few people up here that English isn't their first language. So to get medical care up here in another language, like I heard, like Filipinos are like the largest minority out here, and some of them don't speak proper English, for
I
example.
wonder what that means. The largest minority. Are they still a minority?
Yeah,
Just want to throw that.
Okay.
it's a good point. But so when it comes to healthcare up here, George and I were talking about it yesterday. Like, you just have to take care of yourself and make sure you're eating right and exercising and drinking water and not smoking, because out here there are quite a few unhealthy people, I must say. Like when we're walking around, I can see.
And I've browsed around a little bit online.
Can you go a little bit closer to George?
I browsed around a little bit online looking to see about finding as a doctor, a family doctor, and I find one of two things: either the doctor's great and the customer service at the office is really bad, or the doctor's office is not taking any new patients. So I just don't feel motivated to try and find a doctor, which is where we brought up the conversation. And like,
Yeah, the audio's not going to work for George. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, he was close. Yeah. Can you keep going,
It's
Melissa? Can you kind of yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you repeat what George was saying there? Because this is important.
Okay, I'm gonna try. George was looking for a family doctor for us, and by asking around, people have been saying that the good doctors are rushed and that it's really bad, basically customer service. Like you don't really, they're just taking you in 5-10 minutes. Okay, take this pill or whatever, and like go.
They're over capacity. They're over capacity.
And then yeah, there are a lot of doctors clinics that aren't taking anybody anymore because they no more new patients. So it's a bit of a crisis. I mean, it's a crisis up here, just like BC, for example. I think
so.
there's
George
a lot of
has no family doctor right now.
Neither of us do.
No family doctor. Okay. So what do you do if you actually get hurt or sick? Can you just go to emergency and get covered, or?
Well, we are covered by BC. Maybe
we can. You know what? I get that through my job.
George gets benefits through his job.
So then,
okay, that's insurance.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just
okay.
Like, I'm gonna dig deeper and find someone, but I don't feel very motivated when my first round of looking was just terrible.
It's hard to find somebody, so it's kind of demotivating to find a doctor. It's just difficult. So we need to find people up here.
Yeah, I wonder how many people just quit searching. Like with unemployment, if people stop searching, they don't get included in the unemployment numbers anymore. It's only the people who are searching for work. So I wonder how many people are stopped searching for doctors, and then we're hearing numbers like maybe 20% are not covered. Is that 20% of people who are searching for a doctor that's not covered? I wonder if they do those numbers the same way as they do the unemployment numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Okay, so that's a typical problem that we're seeing all over Canada is overworked. You can go ahead and try again, George.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
No, I don't think that's the microphone that you guys are using. I know you think you might be, but can you get closer to the phone or the laptop?
Let's try this. How about now? Can you hear me better?
Getting better.
Okay, so with Jobless Jobs, we're starting to build relationships with a new emerging private sector of medical care.
So emerging private sector, okay.
Yeah, things can't move fast enough, but I'm rooting them on. I'm cheering them on. We have a few already listed on our new directory that's going to be launched in the next few weeks to month and a half or so. So I'm leaning in towards that too, and it's just a matter of building a relationship with them because a lot more of those private sector clinics that are opening up, practitioners, they're leaning more towards encouraging good health, healthy habits, and well-being and they get a lot
Oh,
more
they
than
should.
yeah. So whereas the conventional, for lack of a better term, doctors, they just run on the pharmaceutical dialogue, right? The clock starting to end out. So I'm not very motivated, but sometimes you need them if it's an emergency or need surgery and that sort of thing. So we're gonna have to find a balance.
Okay. Okay. Now, do we want to move to Northwest Territories? We're down to 10 minutes here.
Okay.
No pressure. You got 5 minutes or so for each if you want.
Okay, Northwest Territories. They've raised the minimum wage from $15.20 to $16.05 an hour.
Oh, it's a big jump.
Huge jump.
Yep.
And this is going to be starting in September. There's a like an independent political party out there. I can't remember their name, but they got an economist to come in and have a look at the the living standards and how much it costs in the Northwest Territories and what would be a reasonable living wage, minimum wage there. And in Yellowknife, it would have been $23.28. So people are getting like $16.05 an hour right now, minimum wage in Northwest Territories of all places. It's ridiculous. So there are a lot of businesses in Northwest Territories that are saying like, hey, this is too much of a raise and we can't keep up with this.
That's usually what happens.
COVID and
People get
everything. Yeah.
People get let go. Lots of people get let go.
Yeah. So that's really unfortunate. Like it's not enough, but it's also too much for these businesses to continue.
Yeah, typically small businesses take the brunt of that one, and then low income earners are also the ones that are let go first. It's insane that they do that.
If they stop with
We can't hear you, George.
If they stop with the carbon tax and all the cost of everything going up so high, it wouldn't be so hard on the business owners. It wouldn't be so difficult to make a living. It's not the cost of living in Northwest Territories that's the problem. It's the inflation. It's the carbon tax that's making the problem, and it's going to put businesses out of business.
Yeah, and we just heard from BC that the ports are having problems with the strike too. So you might see additional costs on supplies and logistical and transportation things that might be going up across the board for Canada as well now.
Yeah. So that's Northwest Territories.
Yeah, now you're quiet.
Oh, hello?
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
There seems to be a sweet spot on your laptop there.
Yeah. So there was we had fires also in Yukon, as you might have heard. We had a big fire in Ibex Valley, and then Northwest Territories also had fires, and unfortunately a 25-year-old firefighter this week died. And he was a father of one, and he passed away. So I had his name written down, but I don't have it now. But rest in peace.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Is that the first fatality with the fires up there?
That we've heard of, yeah.
Okay, that you're aware of. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So that was in Northwest Territories?
Yeah, that was in the fires out there. So just wanted to remember him. I just don't know his name, sorry. And Nunavut, it's kind of hard to, I don't really have much for Nunavut, but in general, I don't know if you've heard of this. All of the Northwest Territories want more funding towards Arctic security.
Oh,
Northern
so from
Territories.
from Russia? Is that what the concern is?
Yeah. So their current, they're just concerned about Russia, Ukraine, and because Russia went into Ukraine, and then they're concerned about China also. So, what was it? The feds.
No. Are there any reasons for it? Like, has Russia said anything? They said they want to go take our snow. Like, has anything happened to cause this concern? Or is this just one of those unreasonable concerns?
It's one of those, it looks like it's just one of those unreasonable concerns. not.
And we're getting the name Adam Yeason, 25 years old, was a firefighter. Adam
Thank
Yeaton,
you, Adam Yeadon. Rest in peace,
25
Adam.
years old. Our chat was able to find that for you.
Thank you, chat. Sorry I didn't bring it up, but thank you for.
That's what they're
finding
for.
it.
The chat is great
Yeah.
for that. If you're not sure
Yeah,
of
go
something, they
chat.
can find it for you. Yeah.
And maybe you could find this too, but I think that this is just being conspiratorial a little bit and thinking that we're going to get invaded. But then again, there's a little bit of history repeating itself, which George might want to geek out on with the Alaska
What's it?
Highway and everything. But
Okay, Alaska Highway.
Well, there's a legacy of development
Perfect,
that's
George.
going on. You can hear me
Yeah,
good?
that's good audio now. Yeah, that's good.
There's a legacy of development that's gone on in the north that's due to wartime or the Cold War and that sort of thing. Like I've spent a lot of time up on the Dempster Highway and there's still old radars everywhere. If you start looking, you find them. And the whole reason the Alaska Highway was put in was due to wartime. There's some pipelines in the ground here that are dormant, but they were put in because of wartime. So the only reason that we're able to drive up here and live here is because of defense reasons by either Canada or the U.S. So it's really fit that more development could occur with more funding based on fears of war. So chances are it's fear mongering, but there might be some wise politicians up here who know that if you raise the potential threat flag, then you get more money.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
who knows? Who knows how
Yeah,
they're
and
playing it?
And I'm surprised this would even work because there's other countries that Russia would go to first, way before Canada. Um, I don't know. I think they're just getting paranoid. Do you think the U.S. is involved in this as well? Because I know the Canada and U.S. work together to have that Canadian shield up there. Do you think the U.S. are maybe instigating some of this?
I haven't heard, but there is a history of that, and their funding. So who knows? It's very likely. I bet it's 50-50. Um, like I was saying, the U.S. has paid for a lot of the development that's going on in Yukon. So there's already a precedent and a supply channel of funds for this reason. So
Yeah, move over a bit.
maybe we'll get some shoulders on the road. A lot of the roads up here don't have a shoulder or they're not paved, and that sort of thing. So that's my hope. Yeah, better infrastructure, more hospitals, more pipelines that are not just dormant, and better roads. That could help a defense effort.
better hospitals too.
Yeah, I guess so. So there could be some infrastructure spending around security. So you think they're building a project around that, and that actually might assist with the infrastructure up there?
Yeah, and there's a rumor. I mentioned the Dempster Highway. There's a rumor, and I don't know if you're aware, but the Dempster Highway is the only road in North America you can actually drive to the Arctic Ocean. And there's a town there called Tuktoyaktuk. Everyone just calls it Tuk. The rumor is they're building a port there, and I've heard of it through my trucking coworkers.
Ooh.
And they're telling me that there's already been equipment shipped up there to start building it. So I can't verify it. I haven't seen it myself, but these guys don't lie. So it's
I think
second or third generation information, but I can say it's probably true.
Yeah, well, that kind of information is far better than CBC, so we're paying attention to that. I wonder if Danielle is aware of this because she wants a port. She wants a port away from the West Coast. So I wonder if she knows about this. Okay, cool. That's a great update. Any news on the buffalo with the anthrax? It was a couple weeks ago we saw that. No?
No, I didn't look into the anthrax buffalo. Sorry.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay. Yeah, I think they lost 9, so we'll see if the count is up. Maybe we'll have to put a ticker down like CNN for the death count. But yeah,
You should.
maybe next week. And thank you very much for accepting my offer. So you're going to be the first chair. You're going to be doing this every week. You're going to make a commitment to us to come on each week.
Yes, sir.
The Northern Correspondent.
Yeah, Northern Correspondent. Reporting for duty. I can't hear you, George. You got to get in that sweet spot.
I'll chime in once in a while, but I'm not always around on Wednesdays. So it's Melissa. It's her show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Dan will be around too. He's just on a river right now, canoeing somewhere down a river.
He's on down the river. So Dan and George have to be nice to you if they want to get on the show. That's the way this works. Just so you know. You hold all those cards. Thank you very much, Melissa. I appreciate that. You want to say goodbye to Canada, George and Melissa? We're wrapping up.
Bye,
Peace.
Canada. We love you, Canada.
Yeah, I want to say goodbye. Well, hello and goodbye to everyone, and know that we got a much better website coming on in the next few weeks to a month. So it's going to be a combo of a job board and a business directory, like a Yelp and an Indeed, but for people who share our jobless jobs values. So we're excited to share it with you all.
That's awesome. Parallel economy being built by these two up there. Thank you very much for helping people find work and take the medical reasons out of it. Thank you very much for that, you two.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We'll see at least one of you. George, you better be nice if you want to be on again. You guys take care, all right?
You too. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go, Canada. That is the coast to coast to coast. We actually wrapped it all around. Not a single province dropped us. We lost one guest in Saskatchewan. He couldn't make it. He actually texted me. This is amazing. They're actually saying, sorry, I can't make it. Something came up. But to everybody who's normally on the show or wants to be on the show, this is why we have 2 guests for each region so that, life gets in the way. And if you have to drop, you have to drop. But I also made a promise. I am going to play one of Greg Arcade's songs. And I believe I said I was going to do The Great Awakening. Let me see if I have it. I don't, but I actually do have his live version of Come and Get It. Now, Come and Get It is an excellent song. Listen to the lyrics because we might be getting there. But the lyrics are, you come and get it. We're not coming at you. If you got problems and you want to come and deal with it, come and get it. But I'm going to go ahead and play Greg Arcade's live version of Come and Get It. He was on my show on Friday. And if you didn't see that episode, go check it out. It's just full of music. I think we played 6 songs, even 7. We played a lot, but go check it out. But here is his live version. It kind of just happened. I hope you enjoy it.
But that's a little different. That's like an alien. But
sure.
What was I saying?
I hear the guitar. I'm wondering if there's something going to happen.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'm trying to think. That's why, because we talked about this before the show. If
we had somebody ask about Come and Get It. I didn't cue that one up. Is it something you know?
Yeah, I do. Let me see.
Hey, Patricia, look at this. We might get a live version of it.
Let me see here. It's going to be a little different.
Sure, that's fine.
If you can see this thing tunes itself.
Want me to get some Nicki Minaj ready for you?
Yeah. I know some of those.
Try and mash that up with Greg.
Can you hear this?
Oh yes, keep going.
Good old boy standing on the blacktop, ain't saying much, ain't gonna back up. Looks like someone done gone messed up. Be blood, them boys came dressed up. Heard someone's running their mouth. Heard somebody's been spreading around rumors. Figured they'd have hushed up by now, but time's up, ain't no way out. They've been making plenty of noise, but they should have known better mess around with them boys. Want war? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. Want blood? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. Looking to fight? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. You want war? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. Take backs too far, only one way back. These boys are here for payback, so pay up or you best well stay back. What you all think you'd get making a fight with them roughnecks and rednecks? You ask me, should've just left them all alone, but you didn't. You think this is a game? Well, who the hell you think you are playing? Want war? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. looking to fight. You said it, we got what you want, come and get. You want blood? You said it, we got what you want, come and get. You want war? You said it, we got what you want, come and get it. We got what you want, come and get it. That's the best I can do right now.
Yeehaw, brother. Oh my gosh, you broke the internet. You made my day.
Good. I didn't break the internet. I
Oh,
wish
you
I
broke
would,
the
though.
internet. Yeah, Patricia LaForette, that was for you. That was for you. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Greg.
Oh, thank you
that was
guys.
awesome.
I'm glad you guys came. I'm very blessed and I'm very thankful that you guys actually like the things I do.
Oh, Greg, we love the things you do. We don't just like the things you do. We love the things you do. That is an amazing, amazing man and amazing music. And I feel privileged that I was able to hang with him. And, you know, he was just touching his guitar. He had it in front of him. It kind of distracted us from this alien conversation that we were having. And then Patricia kind of mentioned, hey, my favorite song is Come and Get It. And that wasn't one of the ones that I queued up. I had like 6 of them queued up, and that wasn't one. So graciously, he went and played it. I did want to mention my book hit #1 on Amazon. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. You can get the paper book, and we now have the hard copy as well. Keep it nice and sturdy. So if you want to go ahead and get that on Amazon, that'd be great. And if you want a order directly from me, you can do that as well. Bearing Witness, which is the title with a hyphen. So bearing-witness at outlook.com. And we can go ahead and arrange direct as well if you want. But I wanted to say thank you very much to all of you for joining me today, and to Canada. Just the other day was the end of our 2nd month of videos and interviews. And I got to tell you, like, I don't really remember how much we do in a month. I'm just focused on the next day, get the interview next day, who's the guest, who's coming, what's the topic of the week. I'm really focused on bringing this to you guys. There's a lot of work behind this show. And yeah, so I put together a video for you. Every month I'm going to continue to do this, and this is a video of the guests that we had that month, and we'll have an artist song as well, and this month it happened to be Greg as well, so you're going to hear another song from Greg. It's homegrown. It's a wonderful song, and this show is homegrown. My guests are homegrown. I'm homegrown. I thought it was pretty fitting, so I'm going to go ahead and play a little short video for you, and you can enjoy another song from Greg Arcade. And thank you, Canada. This is a great month. And let's reminisce a bit. And if you see somebody that you haven't watched the interview for, it's online. Go ahead, Rumble, because Marcus is in here, so you'll find them all on Rumble. But yeah, if you see somebody you haven't seen yet, go ahead and watch it on Rumble and enjoy this.
Well, it sure does seem like things are getting crazy out there. Trains off the rail, there's a dark cloud up in the air. And it's been going on so long, it's hard to find a reason to care. So I can get bent out of shape, or I can answer with a mile-long stare. I'd rather get a little homegrown place out in the country I can call my own. Space to grow a garden neath a greenhouse dome, raise a little family. I'd grow a little homegrown, sit out on the porch, get a little bit stoned, watch the sunset behind my happy home. That sure sounds like heaven to me. You can spend your time tracking rabbit holes you can't change, or you can head offline, keep yourself from going insane. That don't mean you shouldn't be aware of what's going on, but you should know by now you're better off taking care of your own. Get a little homegrown place out in the country I can call my own. Space to grow a garden neath the greenhouse dome, raise a little family. I'd grow a little homegrown, sit out on the porch, get a little bit stoned, watch the sunset behind my happy home. That sure sounds like heaven to me. butcher, cook walleye. Teaching my kids how to drop a deer with hindsight. Dirt road, no lights, local bar wing nights. Beers with the boys and occasional fist fights. RC scared of me, Osin aware of me. Oh shit, back's free, safety stay away from me. Grown Manitoban with a heart like a lion, long teeth like a yoke. Can you hear them dogs crying? Home, place out in the country I can call my home. And the government leaves me the hell alone. So I could grow a little homegrown, sit out on the porch, get a little bit stoned, watch the sunset behind my happy home. That sure sounds like heaven to me. I'll get a little homegrown place out in the country I can call my own. Space to grow a garden neath the greenhouse dome. Raise a little family. I'll grow a little homegrown, sit out on the porch, get a little bit stoned, watch the sunset behind my happy home. That sure sounds like heaven to me. Watch your kids get all grown, sit out on the porch, get a little bit stoned, and watch the sunset behind my happy home. That sure sounds like heaven to me. It really sounds like heaven. Ooh, it sure sounds like heaven to me.
Absolutely. That's a great song. And I remind you all, find your friends. There's a lot of us out there. We want to be friends. We're looking for our friends. Find your friends. There's amazing Canadians out there. Sometimes it can be rocky and rough, but our side, we know how to celebrate, find the optimism, have the hope, and enjoy our friends. I really, really like it. So I hope you all enjoyed month number 3. We've already got Chris Barber. There's Tamara. She's coming. We don't know the date yet. She's coming. Peter McCullough's coming. We got lots and lots and lots of really great guests lined up for you all. So make sure you come and check it out and enjoy month number 3. But on that note, we've hit our 3-hour mark. This was the end of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to have to try and relax and calm down now because the adrenaline's still high. But thank you all very much. You know how I feel about you, Canada. And everybody in the chat and all of you. I love you. I love you. Love you. God bless.